Hey everybody, welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. This is episode 352. It's June 3rd, 2015. I'm Ryan Shrout.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
I'm Alan Malventano.
Ken's back, everybody. He's in the ether spot now where you can only hear him and you'll never see him. So that's good for everybody, I think.
Well, he cracks cameras, so...
Yeah, it's all the cameras are strategically placed so nothing ever points over in Ken's direction, even when he's at his normal
pale
desk.
And white.
Yeah. So it is a busy week for us here.
Just a little.
Computex is going on in Taipei. This marks the third year in a row of me not attending Computex.
Yay!
Which
Much rejoicing.
Yeah, after 11 straight years of going to Computex.
I think it's 4 years.
You think this is the fourth?
Might be the fourth.
I think 2011 was last year.
I'll have to check my passport.
And guess what? We still have just as much content on the site.
Yeah, maybe more. So Computex is going on, so there's lots of news going there, but there's other things that are happening as well, because as it turns out, we do the show on Wednesday, which means it's been about 7 days since we recorded it. By the way, we do record the show every Wednesday at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific at pcper.com/live. You can go there. You can join us. We've got a chat room. There are people hanging out. You can ask questions, offer feedback. Jeremy gives you the links as we go to all the stories that we talk about. If it's really hard for you to remember, Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, you can always go to pcper.com/subscribe. You sign up for this little mailing list here that asks for your name and your email address, and all we do is send you reminders about those live streams when they're coming on. Now, we do it for the podcast, and we also do it for any of our other streams that we do. Like last week, we did a live stream with Logitech that we gave away some prizes and talked about products and stuff like that. So if you don't want to miss out on that, go to pcper.com/subscribe, sign up there, subscribe, pcper.com/subscribe.
Yeah.
And sign up there. Super easy to do, and we don't spam you. At least we try not to, I guess. Let's see, what else we got? We didn't have this in the show notes, but I'm going to go ahead and mention it because it needs to be mentioned that Fallout 4 released a trailer today.
Sweet.
I know, Jeremy, you're excited about this.
Yep, I hope.
You hope what? Uh-oh.
And that my connection clears up.
Canadian packets.
Yeah, okay, it sounds like it did clear up. There you go.
I just hope they don't screw it up. I'm a little bit worried about Bethesda lately. They've gone off the meds.
Look, like, the last real game they released was Skyrim, right?
True.
I mean, and then that's a pretty awesome game. Can I admit something?
You've only played the first 5 minutes of Skyrim.
I never played
3,000
Fallout
times?
3.
You never played it at all?
I never played Fallout 3.
Are we confused about it because you watch Fallout 3 videos or something?
I'm not confused about anything.
Or we, the rest of us?
Why?
Because we heard Fallout 3 coming from your desk, or Fallout in general or something.
No, Fallout 4. That was the Fallout 4 trailer announcing coming out today.
All right. I'm talking about.
I mean, I only played like a few hours of it, but at least I played it.
No, I didn't. I didn't play any of it.
I played 10 minutes just so I can get to an area to benchmark.
Yeah, see, that sounds like something I would have done, but I don't think I ever actually did that.
And then you watched the next minute of it 3,000 times.
Yes.
Yep.
You know, running through that initial broken city right after you get out of the vault. Yeah, that was fun.
You got that down.
Jeremy, do you think that is a game I should go back and play? Do you think that still stands up today?
Yeah, especially considering the mods that don't involve making your main character naked are actually pretty impressive. Most of the mods, unfortunately, are about making people naked.
So just like Skyrim, got it.
If anybody has like, if you've never played Fallout 3 before and you're going to play it, here's what you install, and here are the mods that we would recommend to either make the user interface better or the graphics better.
There's probably
Send me
a
that
forum thread
information
somewhere.
Why do you need mods? Just play it like everyone else.
Well, to improve the graphics.
If I'm gonna get the experience, this is. I mean, I've waited. I don't know when that game came out. 6 years ago, 7 years ago. It's been a long time since Fallout 3 came out.
Vegas was newer, but
yeah, New Vegas. I know everybody has a lot of claim for. So if you didn't check that out, Jeremy did post up on PCPer.com. Welcome to post-apocalyptic Boston. Please do not feed your dog Nuka-Cola because there's a dog in the trailer. I'm not complaining of it, so they don't take our video down. But it looks good. It looks interesting.
Billy, I think it kind of looks like crap.
Why?
I don't know. Maybe I was just hoping for more pop in the graphics rather than a step back. Because I think the art...
What is it a step back from?
Well, actually, if you watch the first Fallout 3, I mean, everything is more day glow in the new one.
Everything. Well,
I don't know. Is it art direction versus technology?
Yeah, it might be that. All the comments I've seen have been that there's color in Fallout 4 in this trailer. There was never much color in Fallout 3, but that was added in New Vegas. I don't know. I think it'll look fine. I don't know what they're doing engine-wise, but...
hopefully all new, considering the problems their engines have had.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you've had 8 years to fix Skyrim or 6 years to fix Skyrim, I don't know. I keep saying these years. I don't know how long
Skyrim was like 3 years ago.
2011.
Yeah, it's been 4 years.
11.
Oh, yeah. So check out that trailer if you haven't. Another reason to be impressed with games, and they're awesome. And also this I thought was a really funny image to show. Who's the guy who's that without the face there?
Ron Paul.
Is that Ron Paul? Not Rand Paul.
Not Rand Paul.
Okay,
No.
gotcha. Just making sure.
Not your beautiful senator.
Yeah, exactly. So let's get into some of the stuff that actually happened. We're going to get into like our reviews that are kind of not Computex specific. We're going to go through these quicker than normal because of how much stuff we have to talk about. First thing is the NVIDIA Shield. This is you might be confused. You might think, hey, Ryan, the NVIDIA Shield came out like 3 years ago.
Yep, sure did.
It's this little portable handheld device that has a screen on it and a controller. And you would be right, except now you are wrong.
Because they renamed it.
Yeah, that is now the Shield Portable. And then at GDC, they announced, as I reach across the table, this, which is the NVIDIA Shield, which, as you can see, has no screen on it. So it's not a tablet. It's not a portable device. It is a set-top box.
Yep. Really thin one.
It is a Tegra X1 Android TV set-top box that is actually pretty interesting. So at Google I/O this past week, they kind of officially unveiled the full release of Android TV, which is maybe a competitor to Apple TV. It's kind of a competitor against Apple TV, Amazon Fire Stick, or Fire TV, kind of even Chromecast to a certain degree.
Any of those things.
It's basically trying to get an operating system and smart TV functionality to you in a better fashion than you can get with like Samsung Smart TV functionality. The device itself it's pretty slick looking. This little bit glows green. I'll see if I can. Where's that picture in the story here? So you can see like the main accessories here. We've got the Shield standing up. We've got the remote control there, and then obviously the game controller. To note, it comes with the controller. It does not come with the remote, which I think is kind of a letdown. And the remote's like $50 add-on, so that's not a cheap add-on price. So I think it's kind of important to the experience of the device. Like I said, it has Tegra X1, which means it has 256 CUDA cores based on Maxwell architecture, 64-bit processors. It's Cortex A57 plus A53. 3 gigs of RAM. Connectivity-wise, you got gigabit Ethernet, 802.11ac, 2x2. You got 2 USB 3.0 ports. You have HDMI output. You have micro USB in for like connecting to your laptop or your PC if you want to do side loading of applications and stuff. You can do that. And then there's a micro SD card slot there for expansion. They are going to sell 2 options actually. A 500 gig model and a 16 gig model. So the 500 gig model has a 2.5-inch hard drive, spinning drive inside there.
I think it's a hybrid drive.
Oh, you think it's a hybrid drive?
I think I read it's a hybrid drive.
Okay, yeah, that might be too. So for $100 more, you get 500 gigs of storage.
Yep.
Otherwise, you get 16 gigs, and you're pretty much going to have to, unless you only do streaming media, you'll have to put an SD card in there, even if you're installing games. There's a pretty good shot, I think, of when the green light is illuminating it there. It looks neat. Yeah. That thing right here in front of that is an IR receiver. So it actually work with smart remotes, other like the Harmony.
They have a profile already?
They have a profile already set up for it. NVIDIA built the profile, right? So it'll do all that stuff.
Sweet.
And apparently... it's part of one of the Android TV kind of functions is that almost all remotes, I mean, because you can see how simplistic this remote control is, right? It's basically 4 directions and an enter button and back.
There's not a lot of buttons to map,
right?
Really.
So like TV remotes will be able to run Android TV, and that type of stuff. So that's pretty nice. Here's a picture of the remote. It's a really nice remote. In the middle here, it's kind of a capacitive touch for volume control, which is nice. Although I think most people are going to use, I don't want to say most, but a lot of people will be using like receivers so you won't control volume directly on that.
Yeah.
All the same functionalities that you've seen in other Shield devices, where it's got a headphone jack on the bottom of it, so if you want to do like private listening, or your
I thought that was
wife's
cool.
asleep on the couch and you want to listen to something, you can just do that. So it sends the audio back through the wireless devices.
I think that's cool considering how thin that, like, it's a really thin remote. Like, it's almost too thin for the, for the headphone jack.
Yeah, it is actually. Yeah. Performance-wise, I didn't run a whole lot of stuff on here. This is not like a phone or a tablet where I feel like that's important, although it is important. It's just this device is so much further ahead, the Tegra X1 processor, than anything else in the kind of SoC market. It's not really a fair comparison because this is always plugged into power.
Yeah.
It has a fan in it. It doesn't have to worry about battery life, so it can just kind of run at full speed all the time. The result is like scores like this, where just a quick look at 3D Mark, comparing it to some of the other devices that are out there: Apple iPad Air 2, the Nexus 9 Shield tablet that has used NVIDIA's last generation Tegra K1 processor, and you can see like the huge difference there in graphics performance, which is utilized at the very least for gaming stuff, which I'll mention real fast. Android TV. This is really the first device to use Android TV. I encourage you to go look at this review and watch the video that Alan and I did, because we kind of walk through the Android TV interface. It is essentially a new version of Android that brings you apps in a way that it tries to intelligently make TV watching experience better. So you can run a whole bunch of stuff, but the important ones like Netflix and Hulu are there. HBO is not there yet, but that will be there this summer.
That interface is smooth like butter.
Apple had that tied into an exclusive time period for a little while, but that'll be there soon.
Yeah, but that interface is just so...
It ran fantastically well. It comes pre-installed with Plex. NVIDIA did that, like they pre-installed Plex on it. So if you have a Plex server, it's super easy to put your login information there and add it, and you can stream all of your content there. The important part here, and I think one of the things that stands out, is this is a 4K ready device, which 4K 60, like that HDMI port is HDMI 2.0. So if you have a HDMI 2.0 HDCP 2.2 compliant device, TV, it'll work with it. Now, which finding those is harder than you might think right now.
That might take some research. You gotta, because just saying 4K is one thing. Just saying HDMI is one thing, but to know it's HDMI 2 and that the TV is not only HDMI 2 but also properly supporting full,
because you have to support
color.
HDCP and all that type of stuff too. I did get Netflix 4K streaming running. Looks awesome. But I didn't have any 4K Plex content on there. But you could go to YouTube and watch 4K content as well. It works really well. Everything is nice. The gaming side of it is pretty much what we've talked about for the tablet and the portable, except this is just faster, right? So this launched with the native Android version of Doom 3 BFG Edition, for example, and we played some of that, and it's pretty awesome. I played some Crossy Road on it, which you can play with the remote, which is pretty cool.
Doom ran at 60, no problem. Like
Doom renders
it looks good for what it was,
60 frames per second, and it's good. And there's a bunch of other games coming out: Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, Borderlands pre-sequel, War Thunder was out. There's a Resident Evil, I think it's Resident Evil 5, based on the logo there, that's coming out. And of course, you've got like the Half-Life 2 and Portal that we know about. It was already there in the past, but they say there are more of these coming out. So this is a screenshot from Doom 3. I mean, it's Doom 3. It's a 10-year-old game.
Yeah.
But it's still pretty cool that this is running natively on this. Is this going to replace an Xbox One or PS4? No, not with that type of stuff. But you can do game streaming with it, like local network GeForce game streaming. So if you have a PC with a GTX graphics card on your network, you hook this up to your TV in your living room, and you can stream all of your games over to it, and use a controller or use a keyboard and mouse if you want to as well. And it does a really good job of that. It's got hardwired networking capability in there built in, so if you want lowest latency possible, you get some of that. It's a pretty good device for that. It can do grid streaming as well.
Is the max for game stream still 1080p?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. And NVIDIA did announce the 1080p 60 version of Grid.
Right.
As well, that I think will start next month. So all that capability is built into this. It's just not the only device that can do that. It just happens to do it best or better than anything else I've seen. 16 gig version is $199. 500 gig version is $299. You get $30 of Google Play credit free. I think that's a limited time thing. The Android remote, the Shield remote is $49.
Yeah.
The stand itself is $29. Both those accessories are kind of expensive considering what they are.
Stand is just
is a piece of metal.
Plastic
it's metal. It's nicely made.
Yeah.
But it's still just a piece of metal for $30. And I said in the review this should have been included, because this is what would make my wife try to use it at the very least.
Yes.
Like try to accept it and use it as part of the multimedia system.
It is WAF.
Using a controller. Yeah,
No.
wife approved.
Wife acceptance factor.
Oh, okay.
WAF.
What was the other thing I was going to say? There was something else in there about that. No HBO support yet.
Not yet, but probably coming.
No Amazon Prime support yet.
Right.
And that's kind of interesting because they have their own competing platform. I don't know.
Amazon
Showtime?
might give in. And
Showtime's coming out with their own
Is it? Okay.
next month.
Like you can download the ESPN app and run that, and you can put Sling Media on there, so you can get Sling TV, so you can watch ESPN. If you don't have
watch
cable subscription,
whatever you got. Yeah.
I mean, it's as close as we've gotten to kind of like one device that can handle a total disconnect from. That was the other thing. Over-the-air channels. This is going to support the Home Run.
Oh,
is that
yeah.
the brand?
Yeah.
Is that the model? The Home Run
HD Home Run
tuners,
thing?
HD Home Run tuners that are network-based tuners. So you can put the tuner anywhere in your house as long as it has an Ethernet connection.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting they support those, but they didn't mention anything about the USB ones.
The USB ones that are coming out for the Xbox, I don't think will be supported on
Even
Android
though there is
TV.
a USB port, but for some reason, like...
Well, they don't want to have to write Android drivers for TV tuners.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, that may be the issue, right? Is
probably it.
And maybe somebody will do that eventually. But for now, like if you get one of those HD home runs that's network based,
Yeah.
you install the app for this,
Then you just
and
watch it.
and it'll work, and it has DVR functionality, so you can record. Like if you get that 500 gig hard drive version, or you can hook up any kind of external hard drive to this.
So that will record locally the streams.
over the air,
Really? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
and it comes up with a guide and everything. And yeah, the demo of it was pretty cool. It should be out, I think, in July. Go ahead, Ken.
Well-
You're pondering.
So there's both an over-the-air and cable card HD home run network device.
As far as I know, it's only over the
Yeah,
air.
I think it was just the over there. We talked about that in the video, I think.
Well, that doesn't make any sense.
I think
Cable card
if
one
it
wouldn't
were to
work.
support cable card, they would have said that. So maybe there's something in the way the app works and how it works
Yeah.
with this system. It doesn't work, but it's over the air, which for where I live is maybe not that important. But if you live in like New York City or San Francisco, maybe you can get a lot more channels than we can get here. So, we've heard Alan and I's thoughts in that video. You guys have any thoughts on what this device is, kind of in its totality for today?
That's enough.
It's an interesting aside from things like the Fire TV and that what Amazon was it Amazon that
That's
has
the Fire
TV or
yeah,
Fire Stick,
both.
So yeah, it's going to be more expensive, but it's an HTPC. You can put all kinds of new and interesting apps on it as they come available.
Yeah.
It's got beefy graphics. Does more than adequate for I think what it costs.
I think the cost will be the hardest part there. $199, considering Fire TV Stick is like $30. The Fire TV is like $60 to $70. Apple TV was $99. None of them have all the functionality that this offers, but it's still a significant price increase.
Maybe they just need a batshit crazy spokesman who talks to lamps.
Yeah, they can make websites on
Hello,
Squarespace.
lamp.
Oh, wait, no, that was
Hello,
Jeff Bridges.
pants.
You're thinking, yeah.
What? Yeah.
All right, let's move on. So several of these stories I'm just going to mention and tell you guys to go look at PCPro.com because we're trying to speed things up. One of which is Lee's review of the Corsair Graphite Series 780T white full tower case. You can see a picture of it here if you haven't seen it. Unique design, a lot of the Corsair essentials that you're used to seeing, fairly modest pricing, lots of room and capability for stuff. But if you're interested in that review, go to PCBR.com. We have it listed there already. Let's go into another product that I think will take a little bit more time. The GTX 980 Ti launched on Sunday evening, kind of like the day before, 2 days before Computex actually started. This one's actually easier to summarize than I thought it was going to be. Take a GeForce GTX Titan X. Take away 6 gigs of memory.
Okay.
Leaving 6 gigs of memory.
Sure.
Subtract 256 CUDA cores.
Which is not that many out of the total.
30,072
Right.
is what the Titan X had. This
you're
has
taking away-
2,816. I just said 256. You're trying to think of a ratio.
Yeah, it's like what, 10%?
Addition is
Like
hard.
8%?
It's 8%?
Something like that.
Okay.
But the GPU boost clock speeds run 40 to 50 megahertz, not percent, megahertz faster in my testing with this than on the Titan X.
Okay.
The result is a graphics card that looks identical except for the colors, you can see in this picture, but performs identical in essentially every test
Okay.
to the Titan X. So, I mean, it is, if you look at the specifications here, you can see 2816 CUDA cores instead of 3072. The same rated clock speeds in terms of base and boost, but in practice, if you actually look at the results, they're a little bit higher. Texture units also drop, along with the shader units. ROPs are the same. Memory bus is still 384 bits. So all that stuff still matches up. Still 250 watt TDP. The peak compute goes down a little bit because of the shaders.
Are the base clocks actually the same on both, and just like
the base clocks are the same, but you almost never hit that base clock.
Right. Well, what I mean is like, so how does it end up if they have the same numbers? Mm-hmm. Is it just due to temperature that the other one runs faster?
So if you look really detailed into the spec sheet, this has a thermal threshold of 92C. The GPU that they use on the Titan X had a thermal threshold of 91C.
Oh.
And they basically, when I asked about this, they're kind of like, well, we don't really, whatever, we don't really want to say. They tweaked the BIOS, the VBIOS, just a little bit. Okay, to get the extra clocks out of it. But what they don't want people to do is trying to take GTX 980 Ti VBIOS and flashing it back to their Titan X to get that extra speed.
That would probably end badly.
They don't want to do that. The most important part here is this bottom line of this table where it talks about the MSRP. The MSRP of the Titan X is $999. The MSRP of the GTX 980 Ti is $649. $649. So $350 less for the 980 Ti than the Titan X.
And that is less than I think anybody.
Yeah, if you want to see an idea of the ratio of how the shader core count differs, look at this graphic here where I took the GM200. This is the full GM200 GPU die, and I kind of blacked out these two SMMs. And there you go. They have an idea of what the ratio of disabled cores is.
And that probably helps them produce them a little bit easier, right? Because they could just bin them out. And
they're binning some.
Hey, this one has some bad shaders. Okay, well, we'll make it a 980 Ti.
I know some people are going to complain. There's no backplate on this card still. It's still a bare PCB. The EVGA retail card we have in does have a backplate built into it, so it all depends on what you get there. It's the exact same cooler. It's the exact same fan curve even in the
default fan curve.
In the VBIOS, right? Still the same default fan curve. Same connection types, DVI, 3DP, and one HDMI. Same SLI support.
How about the power connectors?
Same power connectors, one 8-pin, one 6-pin.
All right. So
it's there. Like, so I'll show you one benchmark because just to kind of prove what we're looking at here. This is GTA 5 running at 2560 by 1440 and 4K. And if you look at this line, there's these graphs here. The black and blue lines as I trace over here,
they look like they're intertwined.
Yeah, that's the Titan X and the 980 Ti. Yeah.
So basically,
and at 4K, you see the same thing here, right? The black and the blue lines are intertwined.
Well, all right.
And obviously this orange mess is the 295 X2, as you would come to expect. So here's this table at the bottom that shows you that, like, all of these numbers are in relation to the 980 Ti, where it's compared to the GTX Titan X, a 0% difference or a 0.5% difference in average frame rates.
Where does that even leave as a reason to get a Titan X? Just you need the extra 6 gig for some
you need the extra 6 gig. So compute
yeah,
could theoretically, you might have a data set that is larger
than 6 gig. Sure. Yeah.
That's pretty much it. Josh, go ahead.
Deep learning.
Yeah. Deep learning.
Sure. Exactly.
But it's interesting.
That'll create large data sets.
Yeah, you're right. It could. But what's interesting is that the original Titan advantage over the other cards was that it had double precision compute capability. And the Titan X doesn't have a higher ratio to double precision compute than any of the GeForce cards.
It's actually pretty poor.
It's like 1/24th, right? Yeah. And they're fine with that. In general, compared to the GTX 980, this card is between 25 and 35% faster, right?
Okay.
Compared to the Radeon R9 290X, which is the fastest AMD single GPU card, you're looking anywhere between 40 and 45, sometimes 50% faster.
Okay.
And then the R9 295X2 is a huge mess of, like, I mean, this is GTA 5 is a perfect example. At 25 by 14, the 980 Ti is 17% faster, but at 4K it's 13% slower. Depending on how the crossfire scaling works, it's going to determine that. And like, I think I saw the 295X2 as much as 40% faster than the 980 Ti, but I've seen it as much as 25% lower than that as well.
So you're kind of all over the place just due to the crossfire thing, right?
Go check out the review if you're interested in the overclocking. It was pretty good. Very similar to what we saw with the Titan X. Power consumption, identical. Noise testing, identical. And one last bit of like performance data I'll show you is NVIDIA was very keen on like, hey, this is an upgrade path for users that had a 680 or users that had a 780 Ti. They're that type of user, that flagship user. And this is kind of what you see in Battlefield 4. Green line is the new 980 Ti, orange line is the 780 Ti, and the black line here is 680.
So I'm running SLI 680s.
Right.
And that's basically one card that would do the same as mine.
Yeah, in theory, if you look at the table, we're seeing it's about 100% faster, which would be 2x. Over a 680 at 25 by 14. And compared to 780 Ti, it's about 35% faster than a 780 Ti. So that's pretty impressive. This is launching $50 less than the GTX 780 Ti launched at. 780 Ti launched at $699. I don't remember what the 680 launched at. I'm going to guess $699 as well. I don't know. Somebody can look that up and put us in the chat.
I think it was $599.
I think it was $599.
The GTX 680.
680.
$599.
Okay. It will come with a free copy of Batman Arkham Knight.
How much does that cost?
It's $60 or $50 or something. So,
any better hopes for like overclocking, water cooled with the voltage thing?
No, none of that changes on this. None of that changes on this. Like EVGA has already announced a hydro copper and a hybrid cooler, one that has like one of those self-contained water coolers on it, and those will keep the GPU cooler, but I don't think you'll be able to overclock much higher because
their default is higher.
The voltage. Out of the box it will be a little bit higher, but if you're willing to use Precision X to overclock, I think you'll be able to get the same speeds.
Yeah, your max voltage
regardless.
is still.
It'll be quieter.
That's true.
This isn't. I mean, the cooler on the Titan X and the 980 Ti isn't the quietest. That we've seen even from NVIDIA in this design because the GPUs are 250 watt TDPs.
But there was a bunch of others announced at the same time with their heat pipe based cooling and all sorts of other like quieter things.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, there'll be ASUS out there. MSI Gigabyte has their 3-fan wind force thing out there as well.
So there'll be other quieter ones that you can grab.
I mean, it's pretty clear that the 980 Ti was released. It's pretty aggressive in price point.
Yeah,
because everybody knows AMD Fiji's coming out, and I'm sure that's one of the reasons why they're being as aggressive as they are. Had they released this at $799, I think still a lot of people would have been buying it because it's still $200 less than Titan X, and you still get exactly the same performance.
And they also didn't they drop the 980?
Yes, the GTX 980 went from $549 to $499.
$499. Thank you.
You're welcome. Josh, thoughts on this? Anybody? I guess.
It's interesting that they do have a limit on the TDP. I mean, certainly you can do the power scale a little bit up, but it's still got the 6-pin and the 8-pin, and you're going to be limited by that. And plus, it's just such a big stonking chip. It's damn near 600 millimeter square. So when you told us the price at $649, I was shocked. I thought it was going to be at least $799, if not $850. Because even $150 less than a Titan X, but you get the same performance. I was thinking, they're gonna, challenge Fiji. They may come out on top. They may be a little bit slower, but they always have a price advantage in terms of, for their partners and themselves coming in from consumers, as compared to what AMD does. But now that they've offered the 49, what is rumored to be $200 less than AMD Fiji, I think AMD is going to have to rethink their pricing scheme.
Poor AMD. They can't even get their new part out yet, and already people are saying, well, you're going to have to rethink all that.
Yep.
So I'm only seeing like one vendor on Amazon.
Yeah, even on Newegg, they're all out of stock. I think next week is when we'll start seeing a lot of the 980 Ti show up.
Volume shipment.
Yeah. Computex going on, everything might have slowed everything down.
Yep.
So check out that review, please. We'll do that. And then I apologize to... Oh, wait, no. Leave it on this because I put in the G-Sync stuff here, Ken. With the 980 Ti, they also announced a couple of other things. GameWorks VR. I'm not going to go into that. It's pretty interesting to talk about multi-res shading. It allows them to lower the number of pixels that a game engine has to render in order to get the complete image for a warped...
Yeah. Just optimizations that pertain to
basically
VR.
They kind of lessen the number of pixels that get rendered on your periphery because it's on your periphery and it's never in focus.
Yeah.
And
not only that, they actually compress the periphery.
Yeah. It gets squished.
So you have
it gets deformed and squished, so you're kind of doubling up on the pixels you're rendering.
As it is today, it gets squished.
Right.
And you lose data, like you're wasting pixel processing power. So they're basically making the resolution at or maybe a little bit below what it's actually final rendered at, and it improves that way. It's pretty interesting. Maybe if we maybe next week or something, if we actually Tom Peterson from NVIDIA will be here next Tuesday, and I'm quite sure we will discuss that topic then. So if you're interested in it, make sure you sign up for pcpro.com/subscribe, and you can know about that stream. I'm trying to get some hardware to give away to that too. But also interesting were a couple of G-Sync updates that are important. I want to mention at least briefly here on a busy week. New monitors are coming out. They announced, or they showed a table at least of 7 new G-Sync monitors, a couple of 3440 by 1440 resolution, which is the 21 by 9 aspect ratio. One of those monitors is rated at 75 hertz. One of the ASUS one is only rated at 60, but a bird told me that might be upped to 75 as well.
Bird.
Birdie.
Which
bird.
Like the ASUS PG34Q.
Which is what resolution?
3440 by 1440.
Oh, okay. So
it's a 21 by 9 aspect ratio. Yeah. They also showed...
My point was DisplayPort can handle higher than 60 at that resolution, so it might...
I think so. Yeah, because the Acer X34 is rated at 3440 by 1440 at 75 hertz. Also, I know a lot of people will be interested from ASUS, the PG279Q, which is the 27-inch 1440p 144 hertz IPS. It's time for Alan to return his last monitor and go ahead and start the pre-order process.
I got the Acer, which is basically the same.
Yep.
Just in a different, in a less appealing bezel and housing.
We've got some 4K IPS. There's another 4K TN listed here. So that it's good to see. Like one of the things we talked about with FreeSync was, hey, there's different form factors, like 21 by 9. That doesn't exist in G-Sync, and G-Sync's had this huge head start. So now they're starting to pick up. We'll talk about that more in a little bit because the pictures of the ASUS one are impressive. They're also enabling G-Sync windowed mode.
I've been toying around with that a little bit.
Does it work?
I haven't,
So you haven't.
A game in full screen windowed mode is still doing G-Sync, I can tell.
Okay. Well, it didn't before.
That part works, yeah. I wish I could kind of extend it to some more stuff. Like I wish I could have like a video, like a player playing a video.
That's not NVIDIA's issue.
Yeah,
that's a video player issue. But window G-Sync mode is good for people who play, I don't know, World of Warcraft or League of Legends or something like that they want to put in a window, or anything really for that matter. Witcher 3, you could do that, and it works through some DWM magic. They won't really say
Windows
what they're
driver
doing.
model magic,
or desktop window manager, DWM. WDM also is a thing.
Yeah.
Window driver model. So it's very confusing. But that does work. There was a report that I got sent of if you have SLI system doing windowed G-Sync, performance drops compared to full screen G-Sync. It was
probably due to that same kind of thing we were just talking about.
It was a bug that NVIDIA found and fixed, and there should be a hotfix driver coming out, I think, tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
For it. So
cool.
They did address that. You can now, if you have a G-Sync monitor, choose to disable V-Sync above the maximum refresh rate.
Yep.
So if you have a game that's rendering, if you have a 60 hertz 4K G-Sync panel, which is where I think this is the most important.
It is.
You can now choose to disable V-Sync, and thus, if your game is rendering at 70 frames per second, you will have a refresh rate, or you will have a 60 hertz refresh rate still, but you will be able to disable V-Sync, so you get minimum possible input latency and screen time latency at the expense of horizontal tearing.
And I thought that I would be able to also turn V-Sync off higher than 144, like on a 144 panel, and think that would be maybe a better experience, because it's kind of hard to see the tearing
Right.
At greater than 144.
Higher refresh rates.
And I had a game right at the point where it was right up around 144, a little bit high, a little bit below, right? And with VSync off, as soon as it stepped out of G-Sync, I could immediately tell. Like I could,
really?
I could, yeah, because maybe you can't notice tearing that easily when it's just tearing all the time. But when you just went from G-Sync on to tearing, it kind of still smacks you in the face. So I ended up like almost immediately going back and
see, you were one of the biggest proponents of getting that
I
feature in there.
If it was a 4K panel, 60, like
tell Tom.
If it's 60, you do want it to tear higher than 60 because
also,
that's kind of bad. But
also,
like,
in the driver, you can now enable ULMB as an option in the control panel.
In the driver, not
yeah, you don't have to go
the
into the OSD itself to do it.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. And then another G-Sync update. Ooh, I think I just. Yeah.
Mobile G-Sync.
Mobile G-Sync announced, which we first saw back in January.
A little bit sooner
I believe it was January.
A little bit sooner than anybody expected.
But now it's a real thing.
Yeah.
They announced it. This was the whole. We've had this discussion before. It is module-less G-Sync, right? They talk about here in the desktop platform. You go from GPU to a module to a panel, but with mobile G-Sync, you don't have to do that because the GPU does not have to go to a scaler at all. It is directly driving the panel.
Yeah, it goes right to the T-Con.
So, and NVIDIA is selecting the panels for the OEMs. Like they're hand-picking the panels that they know how to control. They're still going to have all the same functionality that desktop G-Sync has, including low frame rate doubling and tripling and all that,
which didn't work on the thing we were looking at.
It did not work when we were doing it.
Another thing that didn't work on what we were looking at was overdrive,
right?
Which this is somehow going to be able to do, even though usually the scaler handles the overdrive.
They say that
somehow
Tom will, like I said, Tom will be here on Tuesday, and that's one of the things we're going to ask him.
Somehow they're pushing this back into like the GPU doing it.
It will work in the mobile form, and 75 hertz displays.
Cool.
On mobile platforms. That ASUS had it, didn't it? That's what they said. They say the first 75 hertz notebook gaming display.
It had. I thought we pushed it higher than 75.
Did it go to 70? It didn't come at 75.
We had to apply a custom resolution.
Okay, but it did do
so. To get to 75.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're correct in saying that it's the first 75, might be the first shipping at 75 hertz.
Yeah.
But we were able to push the monitor in the G7.
When we did it,
G751 that we had,
the colors were a little paler on it, so they probably had to tune it specifically to work correctly.
They're showing Gigabyte, MSI, ASUS, Clevo models that are all going to have this in there. And they even went as far as to say they expect every GTX notebook made from now going forward to be a G-Sync notebook.
Really?
Yeah. Anything that has a GTX branded graphics chip in it should have.
They will just make sure that the manufacturers are putting those correct displays in.
There were a couple of notebooks announced at Computex that have GTX that don't say they have G-Sync panels. Right. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt from here going forward, like from now on type of thing. Or maybe those do have G-Sync and the OEMs don't know it yet because NVIDIA's going to say, hey, you have to put a G-Sync panel in there.
That's just a nice idea, though. It's just
it is. Because you have full control over what that system is.
Yeah.
Right? You can control what display the user gets each time. So excited to get our hands on one that works completely and kind of see how that pans out. All right. We're late already, guys.
Hey, one thing to let you know.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mark Hamill is the same age as Alec Guinness was when he filmed the original Star Wars.
Today.
Right now.
You mean?
Yep.
So do you think Mark Hamill will become agitated with Star Wars fans and hate the fact that he ever did the next movie?
Yes.
Yeah, probably.
Or maybe he needs a paycheck, because Alec Guinness didn't need a paycheck.
He did not, no.
I don't think Mark Hamill needs a paycheck.
I don't know. You can only be the voice of the Joker so many times. Or be a cockknocker in the was it
These are not the fans you're looking for.
Yeah.
The best part about the very first episode 1, it was Ewan McGregor playing Alec Guinness playing Obi-Wan Kenobi. That was probably the best thing about that entire film.
What the hell are you reading? This sidetrack is coming up all the time.
I don't know.
But we have a wall of news to go through.
Yeah, it's like cleansing the palate. It's like a nice sorbet.
Okay, I got you.
I see.
All right.
It's like a wheatgrass.
All right. All right.
All right, now onto a case. I'm going to apologize to Sebastian because he did a fantastic job in this review, and I'm going to totally gloss
You
over
should
it.
all just read it.
You should all read it. This is the Phanteks Enthoo EVOLV, which I hate saying that name, by the way.
Well.
Because it sounds like I have some kind of speech impediment.
Yeah.
The Enthoo EVOLV ATX mid-tower enclosure. It's pretty, and Sebastian takes pretty pictures. So those two things go together pretty well. It is a mid-tower case, like 7 expansion slots. Lots of room in there. Let me just show you one good picture of it. I like the look of the front of it. I will say that.
Yeah.
Brushed metal type styling there. It looks smaller than it is because I actually made that comment. I thought it looked like a small case. We can see looking at the back.
That's pretty big.
That it's not. Sebastian really liked this case. It has what do you call that? The way the doors open.
Double door?
But if they open at the back, like
suicide doors.
Yeah, there you go. It's got suicide doors on it. So if you're interested in a suicide door case, go look up the review.
In case your GPU
like
needs
the
to...
Cooler Master Cosmos S2. Is that what that is?
It's in case your GPU needs to bail out while the system's running.
Yep.
Yeah.
My 9-year-old child is opening the door while driving at 65.
Yeah.
Ching.
Goodbye.
Yeah.
That's the Phanteks Enthoo EVOLV ATX. Check that out. Sorry, Sebastian.
Next.
Thunderbolt 3 was announced. Surprisingly interesting.
Goes over USB 3.1.
No.
Kind of.
No, it uses USB Type-C.
Well,
Doesn't
yes.
go over USB 3.1.
Well, it uses the same connector.
No, USB 3.1 use Type-A connectors. That's what all the first boards
can,
did.
but it's okay. Never mind.
Type-C connectors and USB 3.1 are completely separate. Anything else you want to try?
Never mind.
Okay. Thunderbolt 3 is a doubling of bandwidth. You go from 20 gigabits per second up to 40 gigabits per second. It's a new piece of silicon.
Is that over copper or fiber?
Both.
Well, but it works on copper.
Yeah, it works on copper.
Okay.
It's the Alpine Ridge controller, right? 40 gigabits per second. You can do dual 4K displays. You can do 100-watt charging on it. It is a Type-C connector, USB Type-C connector. It's not the mini DisplayPort connector anymore.
100-watt charging. You might almost be able to power the display.
Other way around. 15-watt device, 100-watt charging.
Yeah, it's charging to the device, to the host device.
Okay.
And it's 15 watts you can send over through like the PCI Express part.
So you charge the laptop.
Now here's what's interesting is it supports protocols. Before it supported Thunderbolt, DisplayPort, and PCI Express. Now they've added USB, and they do that because they have included on Alpine Ridge a USB 3.1 host controller.
Okay.
So this is a Thunderbolt and a USB 3.1 controller, essentially. Now, you get 40 gigabits of bandwidth.
So Thunderbolt can go over the USB Type-C connector and cable. So you can have a laptop.
It's a Thunderbolt cable.
Oh, it's just a different type of cable.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a different type of cable. You can't just use a USB cable. It's a Thunderbolt cable.
So even though you're
connector.
plugging it into the same port, you have to use a special cable.
Thunderbolt.
If you want to use Thunderbolt, but
right.
if you have a USB 3.1 device, you can just plug it in with the USB 3.1 cable.
Sure.
And it will just work.
There is some breakdown between active and passive cables because all Thunderbolt cables in the past have been active, but they're talking about passive cables, so those might be USB 3.1 cables.
Yeah.
No, because they go up to 20 gigabits per second.
Well,
It's still possible over copper. If it's
Passive 20 gigabit copper cable supports 20 gigabit per second Thunderbolt, USB 3.1, and DisplayPort 1.2.
Right.
Yeah, well, I mean, the faster one supports USB 3.1 as well.
Okay.
Like
So they're just using pins differently or something, but it's the same.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So what's cool about this is you can do just a shit ton of stuff.
Yeah, you can have
with
one.
it.
You can have one port on a laptop that could be USB Type-C, just like it is right now, or it could also be Thunderbolt.
Yes. Yes.
So that's convenient. You just have one physical port.
So
right?
here's the best example of what it is, right? A single cable docking station for a laptop. Say you have a machine like the MacBook that has one Type-C connector.
Yes.
The MacBook does not have Thunderbolt 3, I don't think.
I don't believe it does.
And you have a dock on your desk.
Yep.
A powered dock that has an AC plug right into it.
And then it can have
You can run
all of those things.
You run one cable from it to the dock, and you can have two 4K displays. You can have gigabit Ethernet. You can have USB 3.1 storage devices. You can have audio. You can have gigabit Ethernet. I think I already said that. And then you can also have pass-through to other Thunderbolt devices. And not only that, but you can get 100 watts of charging back to the laptop. Right?
Huh.
So the 100 watts of charging thing was a USB 3.1 thing. So that's still there. But you get all kinds of bandwidth for that. Where's the graphic they have here? This. So like 40 gigabits of bandwidth sounds like an insane amount of bandwidth, but if you have two 4K displays, this right here, 4K displays at 60 hertz, USB 3.1 storage, like a USB 3 device and an Ethernet device, boom, you can.
It does add up to 40. Okay.
Right, you can get 40 gigabits of bandwidth fairly quickly.
Yeah.
And you know, they even talked about external graphics. This is a little bit interesting because even though we've seen and you know we've always talked about Thunderbolt based external graphics, Intel is now talking about external graphics through Thunderbolt, and they've even talked about getting surprise hot removal working.
Surprise. Josh,
there's no other way of doing hot removal.
Surprise hot insertion.
That's the better part.
Notice they didn't put.
That's the part Josh likes.
Notice they didn't put surprise hot insertion. They called supports hot plug and surprise removal.
Yes.
Now, what's interesting about that is they said they're going to validate that type of stuff, and right now they're only working with AMD. Well, right now, and I specifically asked, well, what about NVIDIA? They said, well, we're only working with AMD right now. So I don't know whose problem that is. Intel.
Intel said that?
I don't know.
They already got cross-licensing going on, so why not?
Yeah. Okay.
I think it might have something to do with the fact that NVIDIA would rather people buy a discrete GPU to put in their notebook. And AMD is like, we just want to sell GPUs.
We just want anybody to buy our stuff.
If I were to guess, that's probably what it is. They talk about Thunderbolt networking, which is something that was announced last year that nobody ever uses. The different cables are listed there. Like you can do 40 gigabits over copper, maximum 2 meters.
Nobody ever uses it because the chances of just finding two devices with Thunderbolt on it
are pretty rare.
Are pretty
rare.
Yeah, but you could just plug them into each other over Thunderbolt and get what was it before, 20 gigabit?
I don't know.
It's 10.
I think it's 10. I think it's just
it's emulating 10 gig
protocol.
So you could have just got a 10 gig link, just like peer to peer.
I've done that from like my old MacBook Air to my new MacBook Air just to transfer all the files. They have the system migration stuff worked perfectly.
And that will be even more awesome. 40 gigabit.
It's still going to be 10.
Oh, they're
emulating 10 gig Ethernet stack.
Well, that's annoying.
Well, like PCI doesn't network between two devices, so they have to emulate something in the middle.
Yeah.
If you have like a small work group, that could be cool. I don't know.
Just a very small set of like servers.
If you have 4 editing computers that are kind of like maybe all 4 desks right around each other, they could be connected through Thunderbolt.
How long can the cable be?
Well, it depends on the cable, right? If you want the expensive cables, the active 40 gigabits can go up to 60 meters.
Okay, and then what about copper?
Copper can go up to 2 meters.
Oh, so you're pretty much close together.
Yeah.
If you're doing like
6 feet.
So if you're doing that networking thing you were just talking about, you're buying expensive cables if they're
those
across
don't
the
even
room
out yet.
from each other. Yeah.
So I think this is pretty cool. I am actually a little bit more hopeful than I have been in the past that this will be something that's utilized because it is combining Thunderbolt and USB into one thing.
It's perfect timing.
Yeah.
Because everyone is searching for their USB 3.1 external controller because the next gen chipsets from what we've seen won't have 3.1. So they're going to need to put an IC on the board anyways.
Right. And we've seen that. We think Gigabyte has already announced that they're going to put Alpine Ridge on their Z100 series chipset motherboards. And they may only function as USB 3.1 devices initially.
They said Thunderbolt 3 coming like after launch.
And I don't know if that means like a BIOS
with
firmware
a firmware
update,
I would hope.
A driver,
I would imagine
something like that.
Probably a driver.
Send your motherboard back so we can solder on a new chip.
Yeah, no. It's the same controller that maybe they just don't have drivers ready yet for Thunderbolt, but the USB 3.1 host is in there and working fine. So,
and then maybe in the next gen chipset, they just build it in when they're doing USB 3.1.
You keep thinking that, but they're just going to double it to 80 gigabits per second and make it an external chip stick.
Yeah.
Finally, we're getting what Light Peak promised us about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I hope so. I would like to see this take off.
That dev board we saw on the table at CES is still the only Light Peak thing in existence, probably.
We'll never see Light Peak, guys. It's time to get over it. Okay, Josh, this is the part where I go to you and I say, quickly tell me about Carrizo.
That never works.
I know. AMD's newest APU.
Okay. Carrizo is the new low-power part APU from AMD. It goes from 15, well, below 15 watts, but nominal 15 watts to 35 watts. AMD did a terrific job in optimizing this design for power efficiency. It still uses the older 28 nanometer process technology. It uses excavator cores, which is the latest and last generation of bulldozer cores, heavy moving equipment. They've shrunk those down. They've lowered the power. They've increased IPC. They've been able to increase the clock speed as compared to previous generation 15 watt parts. So you get a pretty massive jump in overall performance in that thermal envelope. The GCN architecture is based on 1.2, possibly a little bit more than that, because they add a bunch of UVD and HEV decoders, so it can do what, H.266, 265. So 4K, 60 frames per second type performance without hammering on the CPU one bit. So better clocks all around, better power performance. They're hoping that this will gather a lot more OEM wins than previous parts, and with their laser-like focus in just putting this processor in that very limited power envelope has allowed them to do a lot of little tricks so that they don't have to go from 15 watts to 95 watts. Instead, they're 15 watts to 35 watts. Made it very efficient, very quick as compared to what is currently on the market. And they've thrown a bunch of new features in there that hopefully will get some consumers' eyes and will be attractive to in the $400 to $700 notebook range. Initially, it's going to be clamshells. Eventually, we'll probably see it in type Ultrabook type enclosures and like TV type applications like the Shield and others.
Yeah. It would be a good spot for that, actually, at like the 15 watt level. Something that's permanently plugged in that can do a lot of stuff. I don't know if they have Android level capability for that yet, but it's an interesting.
It's kind of funny because there have been some leaks lately that AMD is been playing with Android on some of their latest x86 processors.
Intel's doing it, so it's not out of like I don't know how. I don't think it would take that much more work to get Android up and running on AMD. What on this, like, so new features wise, we talked about lower power video playback, saving a half a watt with, like, for 1080p video, they specify, hey, we're able to save half a watt of APU power for full screen video through the APU. Doesn't seem like a lot, but when you're talking about a 2 watt usage model, you're talking about 25% of that power savings that you got there. It does have new H.265 HEVC encoder, part of the new UVD as well. I am curious on the, the GPU side. It's listed at 819 gigaflops, which I think is less than Kaveri. But
only
Kaveri
slightly, but Kaveri at 95 watts is just, I think, under 1 teraflop.
Yep.
And so you're talking about 3 times less, well, more than that, 4 to 5 times less power draw, and approaching those kind of teraflops at
It's pretty good
usage.
And it should be Tonga too, right? Should be Tonga based.
Well, with the new UBD, they may be considering it a 1.3.
AMD does interesting things where it's possible that maybe Tonga has had H.265 decoding the whole time and they just never told anybody. Right? It's actually feasible. Right?
Well, it's what they did with Bonaire. If you remember when it first came out as the 7790, it didn't have true audio or any of that stuff, but then that same chip came out as the 260X, and true audio shows up, XDMA, all these other fun things.
I mean, they're in an interesting spot in terms of what they have to do for R&D and product release schedules, and they're very much kind of in a reactive state in a lot of things. So, I mean,
yep.
Can't fall asleep.
See, he was asleep. It's fine. He was going to have something witty to say, but he turned his microphone back off. So that is Carrizo. We're working on getting some parts in for testing and whatnot.
Hey, was that fast enough?
Actually, I'm impressed.
Things?
You did, and it was actually still very informative. I appreciate that.
Ooh.
Is Carrizo is it going to be a DIY part, or is there another part for that?
There's no going to be no. The next do-it-yourself
AM1
that we're going to see from AMD is going to be Zen based.
Okay.
And that's in 2016.
No AM1 Carrizo?
As far as we know,
lame.
No.
Gotcha.
Unless they somehow change course and have the Carrizo L and do that to AM1, I haven't heard anything about that.
All right, fair enough. Intel SSD 750. Maybe you've heard about it. I sent 4 of them away in FedEx boxes today. You maybe saw a picture. I shipped out 20.
Nicely broken in.
22 boxes of prizes.
Yeah.
Yes. While we happen to have 5 400 gigabyte Intel 750 series SSDs, Alan decided it's like, maybe we just put them all in a system and see what happens.
Yeah.
So this is what we did. We put 5 of them in a system and
we saw what happened.
So what happened? That's what happened. What's the platform we use for this?
So we used the 40-lane i7-5960X in an X99 system. X99 Pro. What was that motherboard?
X99 Pro.
Deluxe.
X99 Deluxe from
Not
ASUS.
a Pro.
Yeah.
Actually, if we used a Pro, we wouldn't have got the speeds we did because it doesn't have as many of the lanes set up the correct way. So we just figure out what kind of issues you run into when you're trying to hook up. Basically, fill every single slot on the board with SSDs except for one slot for the GPU.
Well, let's point out. So that motherboard had room for 4. Had room for 5. Physically, room for 5 750 series SSDs.
Of these SSDs, yes.
And we had to use a quote regular ass graphics card, which is a 1-slot, single slot Galaxy GeForce G210, I think.
It was convenient because it was the same exact form factor as.
If you look at this picture, like it looks like it's in there.
So it just looks like it's another card,
except the VGA and DVI connection there.
Yeah.
However, the complication we ran into is
that slot right next to the GPU.
This one here, the one that would normally be covered if you have a 2-slot video card, it would be.
Okay, so when you did benchmarks, let me interrupt here.
Oh yes,
when you did benchmarks, did you have to scream, "There is no 5th card"?
Well, I had to stop addressing the 5th card for.
Did you have to really squint up at them and see if there's 4 or 5?
No.
I don't.
There are 4 SSDs.
Star Trek. Dan.
Sorry.
The lights.
Anyway,
it never works, Josh.
You're so
it never
thick.
works.
So the issue we had was that since this.
Oh, you know what? Now I get.
Oh, now you get it.
The 4 lights thing.
Oh, see?
That you posted on Facebook because Kelly, my wife, was like, Alan took a picture. Something said there are only 4 lights, but I know there are more than 4 lights in your studio. And I was like, I actually don't know what that's referencing either. Ken said something Star Trek, something. And I was like, okay.
Ryan stopped listening because it just. Star Trek.
I don't watch Star Trek.
Wrong genre.
Never watched Star Trek.
It's not Star Wars. I don't want to hear it. Anyway, so the port right next to the
video card,
slot, the primary slot, actually is connected to DMI. So
it's a PCI Express by 4 2.0 through the chipset back to the processor.
And actually, after we posted this piece, somebody corrected my math, and it turns out I think it might have been running at PCIe. I think I might have negotiated either just 2 lanes or maybe PCIe 1.0 for some reason because the throughput I was getting was just not what it could have been.
DMI is a huge bottleneck.
Well, but we were only getting 800 and something meg per second.
Yeah, I think it's 1 gigabyte per second. I think
1 gigabit. Oh yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's
well, no,
low.
because you can get 1.8 gigabytes per second out of SATA SSDs also linked through DMI. So I think there was just something. I mean, we were kind of pushing it to its limits, right? We had the motherboard was literally airtight, right? So it was every single slot was full.
Yeah.
Everyone.
If you know what I'm saying, Josh.
There you go.
Every slot was filled.
Every slot was filled. So if we had a different kind of...
surprise hot insertions, though, right?
Don't drag me into your sludge, Ryan Trout.
Exactly. Before we go to that, did you raid them?
Okay, so that's what we tried first.
But you can't.
With Windows.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Software raid.
There were comments in there oh, cool, you boot off of it, and you can't boot off of it.
No, you can't boot off of it.
You can't have a multi-drive array of PCI Express SSDs as a bootable thing.
What you didn't see in that picture was the little lone SATA SSD sitting off in the corner that had the OS on it, right? Because that's, if I wanted to be able to talk to all 5 of these SSDs in a raw format, which I ended up doing later, no partition on any of them, right? You can't, raid PCIe SSDs in hardware. At least not yet. Not until, I don't know. It's going to be a few years probably.
Yep.
Before, if that even happens.
You did say you
right?
used storage spaces, didn't you?
You got a lot of stuff to get to.
Yeah.
Tell me about the stuff.
So, tried storage spaces. That was horrible. First of all, it was even worse than like the Windows generic software striping, because storage spaces was segmenting the blocks. Like I was running a benchmark and it was only touching 2 of the 5 SSDs because it was only spanning a couple of them because of storage spaces. So that was a dud. Windows RAID was kind of decent. Got like up near 4 gigabytes per second.
Well, that was here.
That was the Atto results.
That was Atto, but that wasn't because of Windows storage. That was because the file size that it was using again, right? I mean, it pegged at 4 gigs per second read and 3.7 gigs per second write.
Yes, but it was still like
horrible.
That was actually Windows was the limit.
Okay.
Because all 5 drives were lit up solid by the time it got to the bottom.
But this is, I mean, they were not like the disks were not being utilized.
That's when I was filling the disks.
Okay. And so here's our description of the 40 lanes.
Yeah.
part.
So if this was a different kind of motherboard design, you could potentially have 40 lanes. That's much more than just 4 lanes times 5, right? But motherboards aren't designed that way. They're designed for GPUs to be plugged into them with more than 4 lanes per slot, right?
Because nobody's crazy.
So with what we had to work with, first we were like, all right, so let's try the 4 fast ones and see what we can get out of them.
All right. And what did that come up to?
So 4K sequential writes to 4 of the SSDs, 5 gig per second. Not too shabby. Sequential reads to from those 4, 9.5 gig per second. That's a lot less shabby.
You said 4K sequential writes. You meant 128.
Or sorry, 128K sequential writes. Sequential writes. And sequential reads. So
sequential reads up to 9.5 gigs, writes of 5 gigs per second.
And then I figured, well, I might as well add in the 5th one just for the purpose of sequential reads and see, if I can get a little bit past to get up to 11. Couldn't get up to 11. It wouldn't go to 11.
I get that reference.
Yeah, only 10.3 gigabytes per second. So that achievement was unlocked.
So we hit 10.3 gigs per second. So obviously adding in the 5th one didn't scale as well as we, as
we only
got about 800 megs.
We don't know exactly why there was a bottleneck at the as low as it was, but it was there, and it kind of made the 5th one, kind of like useless.
And IOPS wise, you pegged it.
Yeah. So 4K random reads. And we had to do Q depth of 128 per SSD, and we pegged all of the cores of the 5960 at the same time as all this was going on, because the system was basically just doing everything it possibly could with IOs flying all over the place. 1.77 million IOPS, which is nothing to sneeze at, but it's not a round number.
By the way, is what that looks like as it.
That's what it looks like scaling up as it goes through the test, and you can just see Windows kind of. It loads up the cores first, and leaving like the 2nd thread per core idle for as long as it can, and then those start stepping in as. So
this is when we hit 1.77. We wanted to overclock the processor to get more. This is why it's running at 4.45 or whatever.
Yeah, that's with it overclocked.
The disk 100% utilized on all 4 of them, and we got to what was this?
So so that bottom result there is I kind of cheated because I was trying to figure out, well, like, where is the bottleneck really? It looks like kind of both things are bottlenecking at the same time. So I wanted to know how much further could you get out of the CPU in its current configuration? Like, how many more IOPS could the system just throw around? Not with the SSD being so much as a limit. So I formatted all the drives, like partitioned them, and then deleted the partitions, and then reran the test. And what that does is it trims the drives. This is not the ideal way to test an SSD. Trying to read data from an SSD that's empty, it's kind of like, the SSD doesn't have to do any work. It's just like, hey, it's 0. Hey, buddy, I'm not even going to look, right? That's what it does. So the rest of the system ends up being the bottleneck, and that bottleneck was over 2 million IOPS. So that's what the system could handle. And
we actually, we think that had we installed this in like our streaming tester that was like a 20-core, 40-thread, we could have got above that.
We might have been able to get a little bit higher than that, because that actually works out to 4 times the spec.
Oh, okay.
Actually, so it's like 430,000 times 4 ends up being around that. But it's perfect scaling, right? It's like you're scaling.
Here's
exactly
this
4
in
times.
graph form, by the way, more visual representation. This white line going up is the quad setup,
and we're running a different kind of workload that is not 4K,
right?
So that only goes up to like 520,000 IOPS, on our web server test.
And then sequential read speeds. This is like your typical SATA SSD. You've got you think you're cool hot stuff because you got one of those SSDs, 400 gig SSD 750s at 2.2 pshaw, and then we got up to 10.3 gigs per second because we're better. But then we tore it all apart and sent them all out to the people who they actually belong to.
Yep.
So I want to know how fast that defrags.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
So fast.
So clearly this is not anything anybody should ever do.
No.
It is a completely useless function.
It was just an exercise in like,
there are probably
where do
some
you hit the bottlenecks?
Workloads that would be good for that.
You'd have to have like special software that's hitting the drives individually and not trying to rely on Windows software RAID because that's a bottleneck of its own, right? You'd need the system to be pretty darn fast to be able to handle throwing that many IOPS around. Yeah. I mean, it was cool. It was a cool experiment.
And that's what it was, an experiment. So don't ever do that.
Yeah, do not try this at home.
Don't spend, what was that, $400 a piece, so $2,000.
Like $2,000 worth of SSDs.
Not too bad for $2,000.
No.
To be honest. All right, here we go. Into Computex, guys. We're only an hour and 15 minutes into the show.
All right.
So let's keep going. Here we go. Intel announces quad-core Broadwell for desktop and mobile.
Okay.
It is...
And you got a sample of that, right?
No.
You reviewed it.
No.
World exclusive.
No, not yet.
No.
This is... So they've announced quad-core for desktop and quad-core for mobile. And it's interesting because none of those existed before.
It was just dual hyper-threaded?
It was dual-core hyper-threaded. It was the fastest you could get for Broadwell up until this announcement.
Okay.
Our part should be here this week, maybe early next week. This also marks the first time Broadwell comes to the desktop platform at all.
Right.
This will work in existing Z97 motherboards. It's a 65-watt TDP part, the highest end. Let me click on this and zoom in here a little bit. It is the Core i7 5775C. It's a 4-core, 8-thread, 3.3 gigahertz base, 3.7 turbo, unlocked, so you can change multipliers, all that stuff. It has Iris Pro Graphics 6200. This also marks the first time Iris Pro Graphics has come to the desktop market as well, which is the higher end with, what is it? Is it 25 megs? 128 megs of eMMC? Or no, eMMC.
Whoa, that'd be awesome video.
Is it 128 really?
L4. Yep.
It's like an L4 cache, but it's embedded DRAM, right? Why is the name escaping me? It's embedded...
Yeah, EDRAM.
Yeah, okay.
Thank
you. I think so. I'm blanking all of a sudden.
Is that strictly
like EMBM? Okay?
Is that strictly for the GPU, or if you're using like discrete graphics?
If you have discrete graphics, it works as L4 cache.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and like QuickSync can utilize it and stuff. OpenCL will be able to utilize it.
Huh.
It's cool. Like it's existed in mobile spaces for a couple generations. I guess was Haswell the first to have it. Yeah. But it never came to the desktop market. We asked for it like at the very first Haswell Tech Day that we went to. So they got it. They made it eventually. Other than that, it's a very standard part. It's still got it's 1150 socket, 16 gigs of DDR3L memory, $366 tray price. So it's not a replacement for the 4790K. It's not that fast. Like I said, it's a 65-watt TDP part.
Okay.
It's meant for HTPC, small form factor machine, something where you're not going to use a discrete graphics card. If you're using a discrete graphics card, I don't think this makes sense.
You almost don't really need 4 cores in those same things either, though. I mean, not really.
Yeah, kind of. You know, I mean, it just depends what you're transcoding.
It's kind of like a luxury upgrade for that purpose. You know.
So that's an LGA part. They also have the 5775R, which will be a BGA part for like all-in-ones and stuff like that. And they also announced one other LGA part, one more socketed part. It was the 5675C. It's essentially the same thing, except it's quad-core, not hyper-threaded, and a little bit less, 276 instead of 366. Okay. So there's that. For the mobile side, there's a whole bunch of parts. We've seen notebooks announced using the 5950HQ, which is a quad-core hyper-threaded 2.9 to 3.8 gigahertz core. Iris Pro Graphics 6200 still there. 47-watt TDP. Noticeably higher tray pricing, though, at $623. They're paying more for the binning of the higher clock speeds at the lower TDP, so that's what you get there. You know, you can imagine stuff like the MSI GT80 notebook with the mechanical keyboard. Like that is the kind of machine that the 5950 HQ will be in, those high-end machines. And then I think you'll probably see like the Core i7 5700 HQ, which is, again, a quad-core hyper-threaded part that will be in a lot of gaming machines as well, because it's almost $300 less expensive, but doesn't have the Iris Pro graphics in it, right? So if you're using discrete GPUs in those gaming notebooks, then you don't really need Iris Pro.
Yeah.
Again. So an interesting balance of stuff there. You know, they talked about the 5950 HQ mobile part being able to run, 1080p games like League of Legends, World of Warcraft. League of Legends, they're showing 1080p high settings on 147 frames per second.
It's more than enough.
In some of the early benchmarks I saw, some other websites showed it beating the Kaveri desktop versions, at least beating AMD's Kaveri APU, which I'm curious, Josh. We don't want to talk about it too much because we'll do our own testing eventually, but should that worry AMD that Intel now has an integrated graphics part that will be able to rival it performance-wise? I think it's more expensive too, but...
Yeah, it's more than double the price of their latest APU. So you get, what, about 5 to 10% more performance on the Intel part in graphics, and you pay $360, or you can get 7870 for $149, or the 7850, which is not that much lower, for $129.
But think of the CPU performance differences you get too.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's you got to look at your usage scenario.
Yeah.
That's true. So we'll be testing more of that in the not too distant future. But there you go. They did do that. They announced those parts. It's so odd because we all know Skylake is coming. Broadwell quad core seems like a kind of a stopgap thing.
Yeah.
What it's stopping, I don't know, because they don't really have any strong competition in that regard. But this doesn't need to be talked about much. Jeremy, anything interesting on these ASUS ROG notebooks? I mean, one of them is announced at G-Sync, but the other ones did not.
Yeah. You've got the one sort of fancy guy that's got the G-Sync, which is kind of spiffy. And it's going to be a 75 hertz 1920 by 1080 screen. On a notebook, that's pretty spiffy. And I mean, we know they're going to have Haswell Core i7s, and almost all the models seem to have a GTX 980M discrete in them. So it's going to be the i7 that makes a difference as to how much you're going to be paying.
It's interesting that model number, the G751, is the same model number of the laptop we used in our testing in January.
But was it the JT or the JY?
I don't think it was either of those, and I think that's the designation. It was just
it gets
J.
a little frustrating when you're trying to figure out which one you're getting.
Yeah, that's true.
You've also got the G501. Now that's got to have the better display, 2560 by 1440 or 3840 by 2160. But you're not going to get the G-Sync.
Yeah, it's
And I'd really want it if it was 1440p.
You would kind of think so.
I'd really want G-Sync on that panel.
I don't understand their decision making with that. Probably because there will be
they might not have just been
models.
Might not have just been ready yet.
This one doesn't list the discrete GPU in it, does it?
But with that resolution, there's no way it's going off the iGPU.
Well, I mean, it's just not a game. I mean, it's called Republic of Gamers, so it would be that would be dumb unless it has Iris Pro, and that's what they're going to go with. I can't imagine them putting the ROG brand on something with Iris Pro.
Well, but then what about the 552?
Okay, what about that?
It's got a discrete graphics card. They gave us no information more than that in the press releases. I don't think you guys heard anything more. So it's going to be the lower cost. It's going to have what is probably not going to be a 980M. And you can get an optional solid state drive. So it's going to be...
That's a lower cost product then.
Yeah, this will be the one that comes in at about
SSD.
The other ones are not going to be $1,000.
Yeah.
They're going to be 2-3 times that.
As with most of our Computex news, you'll see no pricing, very vague release dates as well. Speaking of ASUS, they also did announce the ROG Poseidon GTX 980 Ti. We don't have a picture of it yet. Sebastian posted this at my request, and that's a picture of the old Poseidon. They probably changed the design some, updated it, but that is the variant that has almost as good as their best air cooler design on there, as well as integrated water fittings on there. If you're curious, you can look up the GTX 980 Poseidon that Maury did a review up.
The hybrid cooling seems to be a theme this year.
It certainly does. This one's unique because it's like it's hybrid in that it's air cooled now.
It seems weird that it has. If you
want to do water cooling, you can do that.
It just seems weird that it has that really good like cooler, and then the water fittings. It's almost like that could be your radiator.
Yeah,
cool your CPU off of your video card.
Almost like that's what every other video card does. Really, is that it's your radiator. It's called a heatsink.
Yeah,
vapor chamber too. Sebastian wrote this up. By the way, shout out to Sebastian for
he's been
covering my ass on a lot of these Computex stories. So thanks for his help there. Corsair Obsidian 750D Airflow Edition. I had to check on this because I could not remember. Corsair makes so many cases.
Yeah,
I had no idea. I was like, I'm pretty sure 750D didn't exist. Like, maybe it does. I know they had a
750 sounds familiar.
They had a 700 and they had an 800. Did they have a 750? No. And we looked up, and I did a video review of a Corsair Obsidian Series 750D.
Obsidian 750D.
Oh. Okay.
The Airflow Edition is essentially the same internally. What they've changed is they have, instead of having this kind of a solid panel here, it is now open. It has a, what do they call it, Ken? Like a... like it's like thinner and like more like not as dense. Like,
okay,
you know what I'm talking about? Like,
a thinner mesh.
So it will be less effective as a dust filter.
Yes, but it will let more air through.
More effective for letting air through. It's like when you get the filters for your heating unit, right? Like, you have the airflow rating, and every heating and air conditioning guy I've ever talked to always says, buy the cheap blue fiberglass ones that have the most airflow.
Yep.
Because all the other HEPA ones, they're all bullcrap and they don't really stop stuff anyway.
That's true.
Do that. And I feel like this is the same mentality as, look, as it turns out, people just want air in their case. Mm-hmm. So we're going to open that up more and do that. So otherwise, I think it's identical.
Well, it comes with fancy fans.
Oh, it has. Oh, yeah. The AF140L high airflow.
You're pretty much buying the 3 fans and getting a case for free.
Room for up to 8 fans. Radiator compatibility, like all that stuff has changed. Internal layout is the same. So that's 750D airflow. This one we have an MSRP $159.99 available immediately through Corsair's usual retail channels. Hey, by the way, which hackathon stack do you like more, Ken? Ruby on Rails or Lamp? I'm gonna go with the Lamp because of the rabbit. I like
because you love Lamp.
I like the rabbit lamp. Speaking of Corsair, this one we'll have a little bit more discussion on. Corsair Bulldog. They teased this on social media for a while. Mm-hmm. This is
that's kind of cool.
A bare bones. It's not a home theater PC. It's a bare bones PC for the living room, and they say that because it's basically on its like a laying on its back.
It doesn't look like a component.
It does not.
No, it looks like the Shield.
Kind of. It has
just
the same angles.
The green glow at the top.
I saw some people talk about it looked like a crab.
Yeah.
Like it kind of has a
little crab legs.
Like it's going to walk to the side. It's going to walk off the shelf. So this is an upgradable, liquid-cooled 4K gaming PC for the living room. It's a bare bones system, meaning it's not a full PC out of the box. It consists of the chassis, a motherboard, small form factor power supply, and a customized Hydro H55F series closed-loop liquid CPU cooler. So the idea is you buy this, you get your motherboard, hopefully you get your Corsair RAM, you get your video card and your storage, hopefully it's Corsair SSD, and you buy a 4K ready
It comes
system.
with the motherboard.
Oh, it does? Oh, I just said that. Chassis, motherboard, small form factor power supply. It is an SFX power supply, which was a form factor I think up until now had only been made by Silverstone.
At least not Corsair.
Yeah, I think it was invented by Silverstone. Although maybe I'm just...
I think like Cooler Master might make one, but...
Yeah, I think you're right, actually. I think you're right. So it's called the Bulldog. You can see why it's called the Bulldog. It's low and wide and muscular. I don't know if that's the case. They say it can support GTX Titan X 980, 970. I also know it can support the 980 Ti. It's the same card.
Go figure.
What else did they talk about it? It supports mini ITX form factor motherboards. It will come with one. You can see here kind of how the custom water cooler works. It's actually kind of neat. Yeah. Right? Like it intelligently changes the design, I guess, to fit into that form factor of system. You can see the power supply back here and how an extra fan there kind of, I guess, helping with the GPU. Here's the GPU water cooling kit as well. I don't think that
doesn't come with it, right?
No.
But it is available, so...
Yeah. Corsair is marketing the Bulldog as the next step up from your typical Steam machine and game console, and the first 4K capable gaming PC designed for the living room. I think that's
a heck of a step up.
That's a little bit of I mean, it's 4K capable. Any PC is 4K capable if you have a graphics card like a 980 in there, right, or a 290X or something. It's there. But so here it is. It's a Bulldog DIY PC kit slated for release in Q4 of this year. So we got a little while. MSRP of $399. After adding in a processor, memory, storage, and graphics, Corsair estimates completed build to start at $940 with liquid-cooled graphics, $600 without a dedicated GPU. I don't know why you do that. And tops out at about $2250, just depending on what components you buy there. And here's kind of like I think that's a screenshot of the video of. Looks like a Photoshop of that placement there, but we'll go with what we can. So, so for $400, this is a good deal. One,
yeah, power supply, motherboard,
motherboard,
water cooler, yeah, liquid cooler,
and the chassis. I think it's a pretty good price. Like it's not obnoxiously priced or anything. Do you like the way it looks? You said you kind of do.
I said it would look good if your living room was like themed black and red. Or you need something that would go with, right? Because it's kind of imposing.
It reminds me of those buildings at the city center in Las Vegas. Like the way they kind of the shopping area where all the Versace building juts out at some weird angle. And
actually it's just like that, yeah.
Josh, Jeremy, do you have takes on this?
She's a cute little thing, but you're going to want to hide it unless, like you say, you've got a very strange color scheme going on in your living room, and that kind of takes away from what the effort that they put into the design of it.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as the living room PC goes, this is actually a good implementation of doing it. That cooler is almost Mori-like in its the fact that it's bigger than the actual motherboard. It's
yeah. Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see. I don't know that many people are going to pick it up, but I mean, I could see it working.
Josh?
Yeah, it does look like a Bulldog kind of squatting down looking at you, which it's, aesthetics. I wouldn't put it in my stack. I appreciate what they're doing in terms of cooling and power and what you can do with it. But yeah, I don't know. It's going to be hit and miss with consumers. It's like that old Korean HTPC that I reviewed ages ago that Colleen just pretty much vomited at. But I kind of like the look at it. It's going to be a matter of taste.
I get the feeling that they've had that feedback a lot on this already, and it wouldn't surprise me if there are some aesthetic changes to the case. I mean, if you look at this shot, I mean, it's clearly like there's a metal structure inside that you could take and put the plastic. You could change the plastic on relatively easily. Maybe they sell multiple versions of it, so you don't have to kind of completely revert and eat crow on your design.
They should make an HTPC looking version of it with just like a brushed black aluminum front, just like flat black.
Because I think the selling point of this is not the way it looks.
Yeah,
but that it's a bare bones kit. That like a lot of this is already done for you. We've designed these things.
Yeah,
it doesn't have to look like a super aggressive enthusiast case. You want it to be something that's going to fit in your
right. If I was considering a home theater PC case, like that style, the horizontal kind of like laying flat thing, that would be convenient for me. I'd be like, oh look, it comes with everything, and then I'd look at it and go, well, I don't know if I want that sitting in my stack of components.
Like, I don't think this would be the wife acceptance factor.
Yeah, the wife acceptance factor is low, yes.
So bachelors might love it because they look like they have a head crab sitting underneath their TV. But I think my wife would kind of go,
see, if the color scheme was head crab, I'd be totally in. Now you've sold me.
All right. Let's move on. We talked about this a little bit. Actually, this is a different one. The ASUS one I listed in that table was like a 34 something.
Right.
This is apparently the ASUS 3800R. It's another 34-inch ultrawide 3440 by 1440 IPS 21:9 curved G Sync monitor.
What refresh rate?
They do not say.
Oh.
4.
Yeah, 4. This is something JJ was posting about on Twitter. It's still in development.
Oh, okay.
So, but look at the look. Let me zoom in on this picture a little bit.
I love the stand.
The stand. Oh, geez, Ryan.
Wow,
it's a big picture you uploaded.
I don't think we need
so there's the bottom of the stand of it. I think it looks pretty cool.
That looks wicked.
It looks pretty similar to what that LG one I have in terms of like a 3-point stand, but that looks way more aggressive. The back of it is what really stands out.
If they have that red light doing what the power light does on a Swift,
yeah, that'd be cool.
where when it's in G-Sync mode it turns red.
Yeah.
You know, and when it's just regular power, it's like green or something, right? That would be awesome.
So if you look at this, like here's the back, and its unfortunate part is because the back won't be seen by very many people, especially if your desk is against the wall. But it looks like this is either red colored or has some glow. Maybe that looks like it glows. It clearly has height adjustment for a 34 by 21 by 9 monitor. We haven't really seen that yet. It's glow. It's putting a glow on the ground underneath there.
It's downward firing.
It's got underglow, as Ken is saying, like Ken's Honda Civic that he clearly drives all over the place.
Ground effects.
You can see the buttons here, like the little joysticks for OSD control would be my guess. And then there are, maybe that's what that is. I don't know what those.
Yeah, those are the buttons for the OSD.
I would hope so.
That might be the latch to. Is it like a Visa mount release or something, maybe?
There might be.
The back's got some cool patterns.
It's got cool patterning.
Yeah.
And you never will see any of it. Instead, you will see this.
Instead, you will see the front.
Right?
You'll still
now,
see the
if
little
this
red
is
light.
true, like this super thin bezel, but now there could be like some dead space.
It's like the guns from Portal.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
The little tripod-y.
I think that looks awesome.
Oh, yeah.
I just don't know if I believe that it will come out looking like that. They've clearly said that it's an in development thing.
I hope so. I hope they make a stand that looks like that. I really do.
It's something like that. 34-inch QHD, 3440 by 1440. But this is interesting. They say in one of the press releases that it had G-Sync technology as well, but it has extensive connectivity options that include DisplayPort and HDMI.
Interesting.
If
G-Sync 2.0?
Maybe. Or maybe they're implementing a separate scaler that enables them to have other connectivity options. Those are the only two options.
Yeah, but I think this far into it, we're more likely to see G-Sync 2.
Maybe. Either a new version of G-Sync will support multiple inputs.
Yeah.
Or they're going to use two different scalers that allow them, and like you can bypass the G-Sync if you want to use HDMI.
Yeah, it just seems like a long way
because AMD just sync with HDMI.
You're gonna have to say that again because your internet sucks.
My internet does suck, but AMD just showed at Computex FreeSync over HDMI.
I saw that.
Interesting.
And I got an email from Robert Halleck about that, saying that they demonstrated a prototype of FreeSync working over HDMI, partnering with Realtek. No standards or anything in place.
Yeah,
all this was overriding a bunch of other stuff. So.
Yeah. I mean, theoretically, you can do variable refresh rate over HDMI. You just need the right stuff in place on both ends.
In AMD's case, you need a standard, or in NVIDIA's case, you need to have your G-Sync module work with HDMI.
Yep.
And here's a secret. If you work at NVIDIA, turn off the podcast. They originally had that working, and they just decided it was too much work to validate too.
That's true.
So, like, it definitely works. Like, you could do it.
Yeah.
They just didn't, and maybe this will push NVIDIA to do it, and maybe this monitor announcement already says that they do it, or will do it in the future.
I mean, I could see that there just would be less motivation to do it. Like, if you're going to do it, and if you were going to pick one, DisplayPort was just the logical choice at that point.
Yes.
You know. And time to market. That's going to be kind of key, especially since G-Sync was not exactly... Well, it may have been on their schedule, but it wasn't on ours.
Neither of the VRR schedules have been good. NVIDIA's has been bad. AMD's was worse.
Yeah. What is the real...
But it's not good.
Like, assuming that it would do variable refresh rate over HDMI, do we really need that badly?
It's just HDMI 2.0. It just gives more flexibility for different priced panels and different, just different designs. Maybe that helps you get into TVs faster that don't have DisplayPort.
I guess.
There's some of that to be said for them.
Variable refresh rate on a TV would be nice.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Mac or PC, which is better for coding?
Coding?
Yeah, for coding.
The answer will shock you.
I'm going to go ahead and say PC.
Click. No, look, the guy's coding right there. He's running Linux. Eat that, Mac.
You chose PC.
I don't know. Anyway, what else we got? What's next on here? GODLIKE.
GODLIKE?
GODLIKE.
Yep.
Jeremy.
Monster.
Do I need to go to church or something?
Tell me about the MSI X99A GODLIKE gaming motherboard. It certainly looks interesting.
It's a very subtle motherboard. They don't have a lot of pride in this thing.
Well, why did they choose to go with the devil colors?
Tournament quote, because
well, you know what? This motherboard was featured in the recent movie Kung Fury with that color scheme and bling.
Which, if you haven't watched, you have to watch.
I've been told I need to see that.
One of the funniest things I've seen in a long time.
You said if I liked Kung Pao, I would like this, right?
If you just like things,
Kung Pao was funny.
Kung Fury is brilliant. But so it'll be the world's first RGB LED motherboard.
That's
so
awesome.
Not only does it actually house components and run them, it glows, and you can make it breathe, flash, and even wave at you.
What wave?
I'm not sure what wave. Oh, maybe it's just like the LEDs cycle.
Yeah, it
chase.
Like
it's like
doing
chase, maybe.
Okay.
So I actually think the idea of an RGB lit motherboard is awesome.
Yeah.
Like, we've seen RGB keyboards. We're going to see RGB mice. People are talking about RGB mouse pads and stuff.
But is everything that's red on that motherboard red because the LEDs are lit red?
That's the unfortunate part.
Oh.
That's the unfortunate part, is that they had to pick a color scheme and they went with red. So if you have red body styling and then you put on blue LED lights,
they should have just done like semi-transparent.
I mean, if you've got the Bulldog color scheme going in your house, this will fit perfectly.
That's true.
That's what I'm going to call it from now on, the Bulldog color scheme.
Like, yeah, they should have just done like some kind of transparent plastic thing.
I agree. Or all black or something like that, or put some white in there that reflects back the color. Yeah, I agree. The idea of an RGB controllable lighting system for motherboard is pretty awesome.
That's nice, but they ruined it with the red.
For people who want to put that motherboard, in a window,
you would do that. You would specifically go for RGB because you're going for a custom color.
Yep.
Right.
And you're stuck with red.
Well, you don't have to.
Well, you just get another motherboard.
Well, you don't have RGB color then.
Or you rip off all the red pieces.
Rip off all the plastic of this. You could paint it. Yeah, that's true.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you could chisel it away.
I don't know if I do that, but...
Scrape it right off. For anyone who's actually interested, it does have, for some reason, 2 killer NICs in it.
And the killer NIC.
Oh, right, it's got the killer Wi-Fi too.
So you can bound them all together to have 2.5 gigabit of network bandwidth.
Yeah.
I don't know how the hell that works, but
I
think the answer is it does not.
Gigabit ports. The wireless?
I don't know. That's I think that's pretty cool. They need to change the coloring idea there.
Yeah. Let's complain about the coloring instead of the actual network implementation, which you actually use.
Yep.
Yeah.
MSI GT72 gaming notebook with G-Sync and eye tracking. It's a G-Sync notebook with GeForce GTX 980M graphics, 8 gigs of memory on there, which is crazy. 17.3-inch screen, 1080p. They don't mention refresh. Oh, they do. 75 hertz refresh rate on that. What is the eye tracking thing?
Is that the Intel camera thing?
I'm trying to remember the piece of technology you can get that does this. Arma fanatics actually use this because when they're flying a helicopter or plane, just doing that is enough to actually change where you're looking.
I don't think it's that. Oh, you're thinking of
You should ask Sheldon. He knows.
Or do you think this is like the research keeping an eye on where you're looking?
I saw they had like some sort of demo, and they were like using your eyes to control the camera in a game. It seemed not the best.
It's an eye tracking company called Tobii Technology, Tobii.
Oh, that's not the one I'm thinking of.
A fully integrated eye tracking notebook, and they don't really go into more on what that is, but it could be an implementation of something like Track IR that uses like an infrared.
That's what I was thinking of.
Track IR uses an infrared light on like a visor you wear, and as you turn your head, it moves the camera and like pans left and right and up and down. But if they could do that with eye tracking, that'd be cool too.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I expect they're doing.
Yeah. Could be cool if it works. I don't know if it will, but I'm hopeful. That's on the GT72. Moving on past that, Micron showed 16 nanometer TLC flash.
They didn't show it.
At Computex? Oh, they didn't? They just announced it?
They just announced it.
So what's...
Not only that, but they make it on 600mm wafers. Double the size.
I fixed that. It was a typo.
Like 5 times the area. Let's think about that. How many dies can you stick on a 600mm
yeah, that would be the
wafer?
key. That would be the key to making...
So Micron's making 16 nanometer.
They already were making 16 nanometer. They're making,
it's TLC.
They're making triple level cell, and they're not increasing the capacity per die. They're just shrinking the die size.
Yep.
Right, so that they could fit more dies on a wafer. Right. So the idea is, lower production costs, that sort of thing. I think it was like 28% more or something.
28% savings in die area.
Yep. So
targeted for use in applications that value performance and reliability, but where cost per gigabyte is their first and foremost consideration. Yeah. So like everybody listening to this podcast.
So basically consumer, because realize, the endurance of TLC is obviously lower than MLC. This is not 3D flash. It's not any kind of vertical,
Okay,
thing.
so it would be the same TLC that Samsung used on the 840 EVO. Because the 850 was 3D TLC.
It's not the same TLC. It's the same
It says
type.
TLC.
It's, yes.
So it's equivalent, like, generationally to what they did on the 840 EVO.
It's basically the smallest planar flash that probably anybody's going to go before they switch to 3D.
Okay.
Right. So they're doing this. I'm surprised it took them this long to do it, but they just decided, I guess, to maybe kind of fill a gap for a little while because they're not doing full 3D.
It says it's in production, available now. Micron has been sampling to partners and will enable consumer SSD solutions based on this technology to come to market this fall. So usually when we see something like announced it's the new process tech, it takes a lot longer than that. So
they have to re-engineer how the chip is, like the design of the chip, in order to do a shrink, right? Because they didn't shrink the process node; they restructured how the NAND is like arranged in order to compensate for the fact that triple level cell you get more bits per cell, right? So they had to re-engineer it to have less, horizontal space taken up to shrink down the design, right? So that probably took them a little while. That sort of thing. I'm just excited that it's coming out of Micron because, like, the Micron flash tends to be cheap in the Crucial branded SSDs, which is Micron, right? Already, like the MLC stuff.
Right.
Those are the ones that run like 40 cents a gig.
Yep. Right? So even cheaper.
I want to see those go even cheaper.
10 cents per gig.
Oh, great. Now he's saying 10. That's going to take a little while.
10 into this year.
No.
10 cents per gig.
That's not going to happen by the end of this year.
I bet it happens. Write this down, people listening.
I think it's going to be 25 cents.
10
by the end of the year
per gig.
25 cents per gig at the end of the year.
I think we'll be lucky to hit 30. But that's just
10 cents.
But I'm closer than Ryan. That's all that counts. Let's go to the next thing.
We won't know who's closer until we get there. Lian Li desk chassis.
Yeah, more black and red.
Captain Obvious.
More black and red.
The team that scores the most points usually wins.
Look at that monstrosity.
So, Bulldog meet desk chassis. Catchy. This is it's the Lian Li. What the hell is this called? The
desk chassis.
Desk is just called desk chassis. Yeah, it is. DK Q2.
That's a very Lian Li model number.
It is. It is. From the previous desk chassis, aluminum body and tempered glass surface highlight the minimalism of this practical fusion of desk and chassis. The updates on this new models add simplicity to system building, more refined aesthetics and ergonomics, new thinner body, and stronger adjustable legs to add to the look and more so you can sit on your table.
The chat is asking.
I can see the handles, but I don't see the foosball players.
Yeah, the chat is asking if those are foosball handles.
Yeah, but it actually
just on the wrong side.
It just hits the side of the GPU.
It just that's how you like overclock it or not.
So I mean, you can see the size here. Like you've got your USB ports here on the thing. I think it's a really cool idea.
Are there USB?
Yeah, see those little tiny blue things. I know it's not the first, but
is it the first? Like,
notice the legs on it.
Thing?
Ken, the legs on it are the same design as the legs on the side of this table.
That's because it's probably made all of aluminum, knowingly.
Yeah,
that's true.
That's true. And then they also have the dual system chassis. Look at that video card that they use in that picture. Is that
that's a
is that a 5870?
That's like a 5890.
That's the Batman
that's
card.
That's one of the old Bat cards.
That's the Batman card.
Yeah, we've got one in our
I've got one right behind me.
If
you want me to
Josh
get it.
has one, then you know it's old.
I don't know. Pricing and availability has not been announced. PC08 dual compartment chassis. Go figure. All right, moving on. Zotac announced a Titan X ArcticStorm graphics card. Looks like that. This is kind of like the hybrid cooler stuff that we talked about with, what was it, the Poseidon on the ASUS, where you've got 3 fans, massive, and you also have a water block to integrate into your custom water cooling loop if you want to do that. This is interesting. It's a Titan X. I am almost positive they will release one if they have not already for the 980 Ti as well. This is the kind of stuff that annoys me, though. Factory overclocking the GPU by only 26 megahertz base clock. You put this massive cooler on there with these 3 fans, and obviously you can't guarantee this is water cooled.
It's because of the voltage thing.
No, EVGA has an air cooled card that has a base clock of like 1150 or something like that. You can definitely go higher than 1026 on these. So,
well, it's kind of interesting because I'm testing one of the Zotac GTX 970s with the the AMP Extreme. Put an exclamation mark in there. It's clocked way high in boost. But you can't overclock it much over that. So maybe they're making you feel a little bit better about yourself.
I can raise it down
like, hey,
megahertz.
Hey, I added that 200 megahertz on this.
Yeah.
Well, it's like trickle down feel better, because that's why NVIDIA keeps their clocks lower so that they can give it to their partners and be like, here, see if you can figure out how to make this go faster. And then they do.
Next, the partners will be underclocking the cards so that you can get even more of an overclock out of them.
What a selling point. Overclocks by the most percentage.
600 megahertz core clock on this video card. You can get a gigahertz overclock out of it.
All right, Alan, tell me about the OCZ Trion.
Trion is going to be a TLC SSD out of OCZ, not using a...
Wow, is that too many 3-letter acronyms?
It was.
TLAs.
It's going to use a Toshiba controller.
Right.
Toshiba's making their own in-house controller, usually Toshiba SSDs in the past, which we haven't reviewed any of, ever, because they typically don't sample. That's Toshiba's.
They're OEM.
You know, they're all pure OEM stuff, right? But even they, in the past, have, like, rebranded other, like, Marvell and whatnot controllers, right? This is the first, what is the name of that thing? Alishan, if I'm pronouncing that right.
Probably
controller. So it uses some kind of like, it borrows some enterprise tech that Toshiba was using called quadruple swing by code error correction, which is supposed to be like...
Sweet.
Yeah, it's, I don't know. Interesting name, but...
if they have more acronyms in here...
Yeah.
May have to
QSBC, yeah. So I mean, looks like a decent SSD. We have some benchmark pictures of benchmarks that had been run on the screen there at Computex, but that's not really, you know. I mean,
it looks like normal SSD results.
It looks like decent SATA. I think this is actually like SLC cache TLC. So right, so kind of like a Evo style, if you will. Layout.
Gotcha. I mean, this Atto run shows 561 read, 526 write. The 526 write's pretty high.
It is, but it's probably an Atto run would only be touching that SLC cache the whole time.
Gotcha.
So, including for the reads.
Gotcha.
Like the reads wouldn't even be from the TLC.
Appropriately.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's that, and then we also got an actual look at the Z Drive 6000 and Z Drive 6300.
NVMe.
So this is NVMe. It's that SSF or SFF 8639 connector. Same kind of deal as like
hot pluggable.
Well, because
it's for enterprise hot pluggable.
Right. Actually, that would be surprise hot removal.
Everything for
PCI,
me is
because it's PCI Express.
On that quad swing by.
Yeah. So these they're selling all the way up to 3.2 terabytes though. So that's a lot of terabytes. That's a lot of terabytes to fit in that little case.
Up to 2.9 gigs per second. Not too bad. And then that's the 6000 series. What's the 6300?
6300. The picture is kind of misleading. 6300 is also available in that 2.5-inch form factor.
Oh. It's not just sticking out the back with the add-in card.
No.
It does kind of look like that, doesn't it?
It is not. It is. That is a restructuring of all the. It's just like how the Intel,
that's a
SSD 7 or SSD 3700.
It goes up to 6.4 terabytes.
Yes, that's for the add-in card.
Right.
And it won't be 10 cents a gig.
And the 6300 series, the 6300 series is supposed to just basically be higher endurance flash. So you can do the 6000 series is only like 1 drive write per day for every day for 5 years. The 6300 is 3 drive writes per day every day for 5 years. So
you could write over 18 terabytes of data to it every day.
Where are you seeing 18?
You said 3 drives,
yes.
right? 6 terabytes.
You could write 18 terabytes to that drive.
It's just math.
Every day for 5 years.
Who's watching the game?
Somebody.
Sorry. I saw like a vine.
Oh, I see.
Somebody's vining little segments of the game.
Yeah. We're boring, Josh. Let's move on.
Moving on.
Are you done with the Z series?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Synaptics has a space bar.
You're not showing.
I am not showing the right thing. Synaptics has a space bar.
Yep.
There you go.
That you can stroke.
Yeah, tell me about this, Jeremy.
Press.
What do I do to stroke my space bar?
Well, what you do with your spacebar on your own time is totally private. They're talking about using it essentially like a touchpad. So you can use it to switch pages. There'll be a pinching movement if you want to zoom in on something or zoom out. But they've got 5 separate touch-sensitive areas. And it'll come with a macro editing utility. So it could come in handy for RTS guys. StarCraft could bind a hell of a lot of things to that little bar. First-person shooting, I mean, you could put, as they show there, slide to weapon select, rate of fire control, reload, shoot. It's a touchpad on a space bar.
I like the idea.
Yeah.
I guess if you were playing WASD...
Like, because you don't really jump with the space bar anymore, right?
And you're going to need a fair-sized thumb, though, if you want to reach
you could still
bar.
You could still jump with your space bar.
You can still jump by depressing
the space bar, yeah.
And then you could use a swipe, essentially, on the keyboard on that space bar.
It could be a reload.
Like a swipe to the right or swipe to the left, something that would not be normally accessible from a WASD position.
Yeah. I could buy it.
I mean, it's just another input option, right? You add it to your mouse scroll wheel options and the 17 buttons on your mice sides, and you can do some interesting stuff with that. Because Synaptics last year showed us at CES, or this year CES, wasn't it like the touchpad on the keyboard, like each key was touch sensitive?
It's something like that.
That's a much smaller area to do anything with, but that should be interesting. What are they calling this? The Smart Bar.
Good name.
Huh?
It's a good name.
Smart Bar.
Smart Bar.
Smart Bar.
So you can caress your smart bar with your Couchmaster. Yeah. Thanks, Yokel.
You just stole that from the chat? Is that what you said?
Exactly.
He's crowdsourcing.
You're crowdsourcing your jokes now? I want everybody to give a thumbs down to that one.
Exactly.
Okay, we're out of Computex news. We got just a handful of other things we're going to mention here real fast. The rumor about Fiji, AMD Fiji, is that they're going to call it Fury. Like ATI Rage Fury Max.
Radeon
Nick Fury?
Radeon Nick Fury.
They should just call it Rage.
Which would make sense. Remember, I kept saying like they've got an OEM R9 390. It's essentially an R9 285.
Yeah.
What are they get if they can't call Fiji 390 and 390X? It's too confusing. Or they
$999.
400. Apparently, they may call it like the AMD Radeon Fury and Fury Max.
Okay.
And I think that would be awesome.
Right.
Yeah, be really
go back to the old box art too.
Yeah, the old box art is important there. Yes, from early 2000. And it makes sense. Like you go against the Titan, which is like a name brand as opposed to a numeric brand. So there's that rumor. We got this video as well as a tease for Fiji. And they give a date of June 16th, 2015. So we know what day it's going to be announced at the very least. It's a little stuttery on the stream, but it's not on my screen here. But they have this little CG video of a video card lighting up that very much looks like the ones that have been leaking out over the past several months. So we kind of have an idea of what that's going to be. And then we also have this bad boy picture here that shows... I think
how big that die is.
This is Lisa holding up a Fiji chip. Now
and she's not large.
No, she's not. So this is approximately 70 by 70 for the whole chip. Do we call that a chip?
Substrate.
Yeah, but I mean, the whole thing is a chip, right?
There's multiple chips.
No, but those are die.
Well, that's a chip.
You got 4 die, 1 interposer, 1 substrate, and a nice load of capacitors.
And some sweet-looking HBM.
Yeah, so what you got here is it's interesting because you've got like the normal green of the substrate here. This golden color stuff is the interposer.
Yep.
right? You've got 1, 2, 3, 4 stacks of HBM, and this is your actual Fiji die right here. So now you can get an idea of how this illustration that we showed you last week or the week before maps out to an actual product, right? So you've got 4 stacks of memory here. I'm going to guess 1 gigabyte each. This is a 4 gigabyte chip.
You know, you can call it a package. That is one big package.
Package. Okay. Yeah, I'll call it a package.
Package.
And like I said, based on the stuff from this, that's 70 by 70, which works out to what? 490. No, wait.
49,000? No.
How many square millimeters is that if it's 70 millimeters by 70 millimeters?
700 by 700?
Are you counting
70 by 70?
You're counting also the memory space, right?
4,900. Sorry,
4,900 square meters
square.
That's a large space.
Math is hard.
But it's a large space, but way less than a typical GPU and its package with all the memory and its package around all the individual DRAMs around it as well. So it's really cool looking just to see it like that in final implementation. Obviously, when you get it on the graphics card, it'll have a
heat spreader
over it, so you won't actually get access to that without breaking some shit. So
people will do it.
Please don't do that.
Delete it.
They'll be lapping it.
Fine.
Maury.
I imagine, Josh, you think it's possible if I buy 2 of these and I cut, like if you look at this picture, if I cut off one of these HBM stacks and then like I take it to the other one, I kind of like just push it down.
Oh, sure, that'll work.
In interposer?
Yeah, sure.
What if you use a heat? What if you use a heat gun?
If you get a really nice hand drill, and make some new TSVs.
Oh right, yeah. You got to make the holes. Yeah.
Copper in
regular Dremel. You'll be just fine.
Yeah. I don't have copper, but I have like buckets of rust.
Yeah,
that I can just sprinkle down in there.
That's thermite.
No, but it's separated still.
No,
so
the thermite's in a different part of the garage.
Oh, okay.
Thermite's not mixed together. You keep the
just make sure you don't
copper,
accidentally mix it.
The aluminum and the rust separate.
Okay.
I don't think that would get hot enough to ignite. I don't think that's going to get magnesium burning hot. I hope not. So that's pretty cool, right? I tell you what, AMD has done a fantastic job of just pulling people along. Like, here's a little bit more information. Here's a teaser video.
That's true.
Here's a logo. Here's HBM. Here's a picture of the chip.
They need to release the damn thing.
And I have this sneaking suspicion that on the 16th, they're going to announce it, and they're going to be like, you can buy it in multiple weeks from now.
Yeah.
I kind of get that impression. But we'll see.
Hey, this is new technology, and I'll tell you, they can fabricate the chips, they can fabricate the interposer, but getting them all together and work, I think that has been a challenge.
You think so?
Yeah.
I want them to succeed. I want this to be a good part. I want it to be high performance. I want it to be power efficient. I want it to force NVIDIA to go, oh man, 650 for the 980 Ti. We got to lower that down to 550.
Do you remember back in the day? Sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
How big of a problem Intel had getting the Pentium Pro to have good yields because of the 2 different dies. I mean, it's totally different technology.
Right, yeah.
But think of when that first came out, how expensive those chips were and how few they were able to make successfully.
Yeah.
Pentium
it's
Pro.
fairly equivalent. I'm looking forward to it. They have certainly put a lot of hype into this, so it needs to deliver. There are a ton of people, if you read through comments and forums, ton of people saying, I'm waiting. It's almost here. Now there's a date, an official date, like we all kind of assumed it was going to be.
They keep hyping it the way they do, though. It really better be good.
I agree 100%.
I mean, like, yeah.
I agree 100%.
And it better be available.
I hope they're hyping it for the right reasons.
And it can't just be I'm a little bit worried. I keep seeing people on Twitter talk about innovation and we're the innovators and we're doing things first and we created this standard. We have to develop the standard. It can't just be that it has HBM, so it's better, right? ? It has to be it has HBM and it's better, period. And it has to demonstrate that. So I want that to be the case. AMD did release a new driver, 15.5 beta, for anybody who is playing Project Cars or Witcher 3.
Oh, that fixed the tessellation stuff?
Yeah. They updated some performance there. Project Cars, they saw up to 17% performance increase on single GPU stuff. That's a huge increase for single GPU.
Yeah.
So all that hubbub around Project Cars seems to have been resolved with that. So that's good news for AMD and its fans. And we'll finish up with new Intel NUCs coming, Braswell-Powered, which is... What is this? This is the Celeron Pentium branded parts that have TDPs at 6 watts. Right? So
put a solar panel on the top of the thing.
These are next generation Atoms, essentially.
Okay.
Right. Everything else about the Nooks is very similar. No support for MSATA.
Okay.
Right? So you're looking at...
Is it M.2?
Yeah, it's going to be M.2, right?
Okay.
No, wait. Let's see. A mini PCIe slot for the wireless module and one 2.5-inch hard drive or SSD.
Sounds like SATA.
So looks like no M.2.
Yeah, I mean, it's the cheaper, lower-end model.
They should be able to do MSATA. Because that's just a different physical...
I don't see that listed. This is all leaks. This isn't anything official yet.
Right.
Like there's also like an optional VGA cutout on this as well. But again, looking at the price points, you'll probably see this at 2.1 gigahertz.
$149.
I mean, it should be the cheapest Nook you can buy, I would hope.
Both are reportedly available on June 8th, starting at $140 and $180 respectively. I don't know if I believe that date based on the lack of information that we've gotten on that stuff. So,
well, it'll be out before the Skylake ones.
Yeah, agreed. Speaking of which, Intel Nook with 6th Gen Skylake specifications leaked. What's interesting in here, Jeremy? Core i3 model, Core i5 model, 15-watt TDP, M.2 storage. Faster, better processors, I guess, is what we're looking at here.
I still don't understand why they are releasing Broadwell when Skylake is so damn close. New Broadwell parts, that is.
But we're not going to have quad-core Skylake at launch, so...
Well, I guess you go.
Yeah, so this is Q4 2015, they're saying, for the release of Swift Canyon, which will be the Swift because it's fast, like Skylake. So... Again, gives you an idea of how quickly things will move there. So we'll see. Out of the box, the Skylake Nook is actively cooled with fanless cases from ACASA, HDPlex, Streamcom, and Cirrus 7 are to be expected. That kind of already exists now. I just don't know how well received the aftermarket market is for Nook devices. Let me go to my next page here. Oh, there is one more thing. We don't have picks of the week this week because we're running so late, but... Jeremy desperately wanted me to include this pick of the week, so I'm going to throw this in here for him about Steam allowing refunds as our last story of the day.
And that's all there is to say about it.
So, Jeremy, what about refunds for Steam?
Well, you get 2 weeks or 2 hours of game time. If you decide in that time that you accidentally bought this game or just hate it, or
if it goes on sale, right?
Overextended your PC's ability to play a game to the point where you're like, yeah, I'm going to need an upgrade for this one. Or you're really pissed because you just bought it and then the next day it went on sale. You've got, as long as you haven't played the 2 hours, 2 weeks to return it. Full refund, no questions asked whatsoever.
So if you bought it and played it for 2 hours and 1 minute and then the next day it went on sale, you can't?
You're screwed.
Correct.
That's
but if you played it for $159.99,
they should separate that out so that it should just be 2 weeks flat if it goes on sale.
Yeah,
you bought it because you like it. You're going to play it for more than 2 hours. Then it goes on sale 3 days later.
You're advocating Steam take on the tax code of the United States when buying. Now, if you hit this benchmark, then you have this amount of time to.
Yeah, we don't want IRS style rules for Steam purchases.
No,
look. They don't. They should. I don't think. I think
there's some danger to it.
Yeah, a lot of developers are complaining about it.
The first Portal, you could beat that in under 2 hours, no problem.
Probably not your first playthrough.
Not your first time.
No, maybe not. That maybe there are better examples. There are plenty of games that are short experiences that are like $6, $10. They're going to be 1 to 2 hour games.
Okay.
And so the thing is, the Steam has it's a blanket policy.
Yeah.
So, if I make a 90-minute gaming experience that I want to sell for $5 because I think that's a good value, then people could buy it and return it and take advantage of it. Right? Not a big deal for the EAs and Ubisofts of the world because they're big companies.
Yeah,
nobody feels bad for them. It's a bigger deal for the smaller guys.
Especially the guys that opt not to go with Steam DRM, where you can literally just install it, move it to a different folder, demand your money back, and still have a full install of that game.
True.
Oh, yeah.
So please, people, don't do it.
Don't be buttheads.
If you're going to be a kind of an arse, just torrent it and it just goes straight out. Illegal.
Which programming language do you wish your team would standardize? Python, .NET, JavaScript, or Ruby?
Anything but Java.
Because JavaScript isn't Java.
I'm gonna go with Python because I hate Python. Yeah, I did that. So that's gonna be it for the show tonight. It's been a long one, but it's been informative, and I think we've all had a lot of fun.
So tonight was longer, harder, and uncut.
And hot removed.
Yes.
We'll still edit it. We'll still cut it because, I mean, let's be realistic here.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's going to be like 10 minutes
sake.
on YouTube.
Yeah.
He's actually going to cut it down to an hour and 12 minutes still, so figured that part out a little bit later. Quick reminders, guys, pcper.com/podcast. That's where you can find all the back episodes, how to subscribe to the RSS. You can find links to the YouTube videos and in the channels there.
Keep an eye out for another giveaway.
Yeah, we'll start another giveaway at the end of this week.
It'll be a very good one. You will not want
all our giveaways
to miss.
All of our giveaways are good. And yeah, I did post a picture on my Twitter account of like 21 or 22 boxes that I took to FedEx today that were like stuff from the Logitech contest, stuff from the Intel contest, ASUS contest, finally getting all that stuff out the door. So lots of prizes going out to people. So if you're expecting something from me, just wait a little bit longer, please. And also, international shipping sucks.
Yeah.
When you have to spend $75 to ship something to Great Britain.
One thing.
That's when you use the USPS. It's much less expensive, but it'll get there in 3 months.
It was $58 for the postal service to get there. So it wasn't that much less, and I had all the other stuff already ready to go.
Yeah.
And so there's that. Anyway, pcper.com/podcast, pcper.com/subscribe.
Was the stuff in the box worth that much?
Oh yeah, everything was worth more than $75. I didn't ship anything to Europe that was like a mouse. It was the one that I'm thinking of was one of the 400 gig PCI 750 SSDs. So yeah, it was. Yeah.
Just checking.
So
it's a T-shirt.
So there's that. Yeah, it's a T-shirt. $75 shipping fee. What? What else was I going to say? Oh, and don't forget, before the next podcast, we are going to have another live stream with Tom Peterson from NVIDIA. He'll be out here to talk about 980 Ti, G-Sync, GameWorks VR, and answer any questions that we have about mobile G-Sync and new G-Sync monitors and stuff. So it should be interesting. And that's going to be it, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this extremely long... Waiting for Josh. No, extremely long...
And curved.
...episode... of the PC Perspective Podcast. Goodbye. I'm Ryan Schraub.
I'm the Jeremy Hellstrom, part of the Quadruple Swing By.
I'm Josh Walrath.
And I'm Alan Malentano.
Oh, video viewers, you get the best version of the podcast.